good morning, afternoon, and evening, everyone. Welcome to the Midfielders pod of the FPL Wire. I'm your host, Zofa, and I'm joined by my co-hosts, Late Riser and Pras. How was your vacation, Pras?
Vacation was great, man. Well needed. I was in Portugal, went down south to Algarve, and it was very good. It was unfortunate timing with FPL, or maybe not, because I felt like, in those 10 days after we'd done the initial thinking around fixtures and everything else, I could relax, take a step back, and then last couple of days, everything has happened in terms of preseason games. But holiday was very good. How have you guys been?
Ella?
Been busy, man. FPL's in full-fledged mode. We've been doing a video a day on this channel at the moment, and we've got an exciting week coming ahead. I mean, we're discussing best midfielders, which I think I'm really looking forward to because I think this is the position where there is the most amount of doubt. Like a lot of people
Especially
are
after
settled on their
yesterday.
especially after yesterday. So excited to get into that. Tomorrow we're doing, I don't think our YouTube members and patrons know that as well. Tomorrow around this time, often I will be doing a Q&A for you guys as well. So make sure you're posting your questions in the Discord or on Patreon and joining us live tomorrow. On Wednesday, we have our Game Week 1 pod, which is us primarily going to be finalizing our drafts, talking through our dilemmas, the talking points, etc. Just a Game Week 1 pod. It's here. It's 2 days away. And then on Friday, we'll be doing a deadline stream as well. So busy week ahead.
Fantastic. And we'll be posting our team selection videos separately on the various channels with our various dilemmas. But how settled are you guys in general? How many of these decisions are going to be left till Friday? How many spots have you nailed down, Pras?
I think what I have been deliberating with is wildcard 4 versus wildcard 6. And I think I have landed on wildcard 6 now. I just think that now we know enough about Liverpool to have some comfort on picking two of their players, let's say. And that was always going to be my thing. I think I've landed on Haaland versus Salah in terms of Haaland. I've talked about it, and only Haaland, not Salah. So in terms of basic structure, in terms of Saka, Son, I've landed on Saka. I think I'm there. But these are the things around it which still need some time. Yeah, and we'll talk about that. I think that's more for the Wednesday pod in terms of my final decisions. But I feel I'm 80% there, 85%.
Ben
What is
White
up?
is in the chat, Pras. He says he's jealous of your tan.
Haha, thank you. Thank you. I don't know how much time I have, but happy to.
But plus, the image that you sent us, is the world going to get to see it?
Of course not. And let's not make it anything more than that. It's just a beach picture with appropriate clothing on.
All right, cool. Guys, just continue chatting. I've hopped onto the wrong Wi-Fi. I'll be back in a minute.
Yes, so one of you guys have like the audio keeps cutting out a little bit, so I'm not really sure.
For both of us.
I think I'm not sure. It could be just because, in fact, it was more at your end, but I'm hoping it can resolve soon. We just give it another go for a little bit. But so, plus, you're currently on the one premium structure, right?
One premium hasn't changed. So one premium, Trent body of goal hasn't changed. Saka hasn't changed. Haaland, Isak hasn't changed. Everything around that is still open.
I think, plus, could you? I think we might as well need you to rejoin once. Let's give that a go. This LR is, let's try to
Okay.
get it fixed because the chat is also complaining about it.
Okay, I'll rejoin.
You rejoin. So, guys, it's just me for a while. I'll just talk to. Let me see in the chat what's going on. So, few questions over here. 5.5
I'm back.
minutes. You're back? Cool. I think Plus should
Yeah.
be here soon as well.
Yeah, his voice seemed a little cracky. I was
It
worried
did.
if
I wasn't sure it was yours or his, but I've asked
All
him
right.
to rejoin.
While we wait for Pras, let's talk about your draft. How settled are you?
I've actually made the most changes I have made so far all of preseason yesterday. Spoiler alert, Mo has left the building.
How do you feel about that? I feel like it's not fully sitting right with you right now
It's
at
not.
the moment, isn't it?
It's not.
Yeah.
It's not. It's like it's how you'd feel after having multiple dodgy Vindaloos. My stomach is churning all over the place. Very uncomfortable not owning Mo because I can't remember a season where Mo hasn't got a return in game week 1. I think even against
got-
Fulham, I think
I've got
last
the
season-
numbers for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
29, 2020, Norwich at home, 12 points. 2021, Leeds United at home, 20 points. 21-22, Norwich away, 17 points. 22-23, Fulham away, 12 points. 23-24, against your lot. Chelsea away 5 points.
Hmm.
That doesn't inspire confidence, does it? Game week 1.
Scary. Absolutely scary. Plus, let's test your audio a little bit. Why don't you say something?
Yep. Testing. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, I think it's better now. I think you guys have screens are just interchanged. I'll just flip that and then I think we can get going.
All right. Let's go for it. We start with the.
Man. I would start panicking like if this is happening live. Zoff is just like smoothly changing screens and stuff.
It's all good. But the audio still isn't great, by the way. Let's just hope we can get it better. Is somebody at your house streaming Netflix or something?
Well, my in-laws are here. I've just told them not to go on YouTube and stuff. So I'll try. You guys start. You guys carry on.
Cool. Let's get started off with our sponsor plugs first.
As always, all the stats that you see, all the data that you see on this podcast are from the Fantasy Football Scout members area. Right now is the best time to become a member. If you aren't a member, click on the link in the description below because it really, really helps us. A lot of you are going to be considering joining memberships now. And if you like the content we've been doing, support us by clicking on the link in the description below. We've got an application now, which means that all the fixture tickers, the data, the beautiful data from stats, points, etc., it's all on your fingertips, on your phone. So yeah, become a Fantasy Scout member and download that application.
And as you guys know, the NordVPN has been a partner of the FPL Wire for a while. If you're bored of the streaming libraries in your country, with NordVPN, you can access content outside your region, get access to a wider library on your favorite streaming services. And if you're traveling outside your home country, you can access your content from anywhere in the world. Every purchase of the 2-year NordVPN plan using the link nordvpn.com/the FPL Wire will receive an additional 4 months bonus on top. TV show recommendation, guys. I got nothing.
I got nothing. I'm literally just at the last episode of House of Dragons left. And that's also because that is also something I've been saving because all I've been watching is FPL YouTube highlights.
Yep.
And that's what I've been watching.
I'm
About you,
just
Pras?
about
You got
caught
any
up now
recommendations?
on the Planet FPL correspondent stuff.
Oh wow, you managed to
think
go through all of them?
Most of the relevant ones. I honestly didn't listen to Manchester United. Not getting any investment in there. I haven't listened to a few others, but the ones I want to invest in, for sure. Pras, what about you?
Nothing for me as well. I mean, I've been just watching either FPL content or being away. Is this better, by the way? I've tried to shut down some videos and stuff.
Marginally better, not significant, because even your video is quite choppy today. It's usually quite smooth, so it does look like there's an internet issue at your end.
I'm working on it. You guys carry on.
Cool.
All right, cool.
Yep. So the Nord also has an efficient anti-malware and anti-spyware protection tool. It highlights any attack and deletes it before it makes a mess of your computer. Grab your exclusive NordVPN deal by going to nordvpn.com/the FPL Wire. It's completely risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. Sign up using the link in the description below. Right. We'll start first with the premium mids, guys. I think that's where we need to go first.
So let's start with Josh. I was in Josh's
no, tell everyone
DMs
first,
after...
people who haven't listened to the pods yet, who
right.
Josh is and why we should pay attention to Josh's opinion.
Josh is one of my favorite analysts out there. He does a lot of work with the Anfield Rap and Redman TV. Every time I've posted about Josh on Twitter, people have said that he's the best analyst they know, and he knows the Liverpool club more than some employees working for Liverpool. And it was such a pleasure chatting with him, talking about Liverpool, because he contextualized what to expect in terms of slot and Liverpool better than anybody else I know. And like while I saw the full preseason game yesterday for Liverpool, and like every time I was watching, I was like, yeah, Josh said this would happen. I was like, yeah, Josh said that this would happen. And obviously, Jota scored a goal and an assist. And after that, Sof and I were both wondering whether we should be doing Trent and Jota instead of Mo. And I think there are a couple of reasons why this happened, right? It's because Solanke happened, which is almost like feels like a gift, where he's a 7.5 million Spurs striker who at 65 million odd should be nailed. At 7.5 million, they're playing Leicester and Everton. And then Guardiola wasn't that attacking in the Community Shield against United. And then Trent was really good. in the preseason friendly. So if you're spending up from Guardiola to Trent, and if you're spending up from Muniz to uh, Dom Solanke, that means you're cutting it tight if you want to go Haaland and Salah as well. And going Jota instead of Mo sort of just eases us out. So, I was not feeling right about losing Jota, losing Mo. Neither was Mo. The first DM I got from Zoff this morning was get in Josh's DMs and let us know what he says. So this is what Josh said. Trent, very involved, got on the ball a lot in the right half space, created a chance after overlapping on one occasion as well. And him playing 75 suggests that he's starting versus Ipswich. I'll be picking him. That's massive vote of confidence for Trent. Then I'll go Jota next because I'll leave more for the end. Jota is like, he says about Jota looks like the 9 for now, perhaps because his preseason slot was longer. I'm thinking about him as an option. This feels like if he hasn't scored after an hour, he's probably the first of the fun 3 to get sub, risk versus reward. And this is something Josh mentioned in the pod he does with us, where Slot tends to just rotate his attackers. He's very happy to do 60-30, 60-30 through the season. So I asked Josh specifically about Jota before this last preseason friendly, and he said, expect Jota to average 55 minutes for the first 5-6 games. I don't think that has changed much. He likes to rotate, and you're going to get maybe 2 starts and then a little wary about the third start. But if you're not getting the start, you're getting 30 minutes. On an average, you're expecting 60 minutes for the first 5-6 games. I don't think much has shifted there. And then I asked him about Salah. So he said Mo does feel wide, but when he gets on the ball, on the flanks, he's driving inside with much more intent than last term. Feels more like an actual instruction now. Just depends whether you think you can get the same output from another Liverpool forward for a cheaper price. So that's where we are with Mo Salah. Zoff, what are your thoughts?
I'm a bit worried about what he said about Jota because I was very bullish after watching him yesterday. And again, Jota is somebody I really like. He's a player I really rate. And I thought the finish he took for the goal was superb, man. You can't imagine Darwin ever doing something like that, right? That's what's really cool about it. 1 second. I think I'm having some error on my end as well. But no, I think it's resolved now. Should be fine. Nope.
Do you guys hear me better at all, or should I restart my Wi-Fi?
I think restart your Wi-Fi.
Restart your Wi-Fi. Or what you can try doing, plus maybe turn off your video. Maybe that way we have no video, just audio should be fine.
We lose a huge chunk of audience then, yes, Zoff?
I know, but
but is this better? I mean, I'm trying to figure out if it's my end even because nothing has changed.
no, now the audio is at least fine.
Audio is fine. The moment you switched off the
Audio
video,
is
the audio
fine.
is
So
fine.
it is me. It is me then. Okay.
Yeah, it's a throughput that is struggling on your device, but I'm also getting an encoder error over here for some reason. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pause the stream and come back for a second to make sure we don't have any skipping on that end as well.
Back.
Yep. Your video is not the
Yeah,
best, but the audio is not garbled anymore. I think we'll be fine.
Yeah, it's because I'm using my laptop camera.
Cool.
The Elgato doesn't connect to this one, but hopefully people can hear me, and that's what matters.
Yes.
You still look as beautiful, Pras. No
Yeah,
problem
thank
at
you,
all.
thank you. Now,
Yeah.
now I can comment on all the other previous comments which you didn't hear.
So
Nice. I see the screen is live. I'm just going to wait for the chat to say a thing, and then we can commence. We back. We good. Everybody's saying we back. We good.
Yep.
All right. hit like and
Apologies,
subscribe.
guys. Apologies, guys. Basically, I hadn't opened this laptop for 2 weeks, so clearly it was not happy.
the laptop
All
didn't
right,
have a
man.
preseason.
Exactly.
Okay,
yeah.
let's talk about Salah now because I think this is a conversation that deserves a fair amount of consideration at our end. You heard what Josh had to say. I'll also give my inputs because I happened to see the full 75-80 minutes, full match actually, that they played. Now, it wasn't like, people were saying Salah's too wide. It's exactly what Josh said. Him starting wide was his rest position. And this was in a game where Liverpool had a fair chunk of control. The moment he got the ball in the final third and he did a 1-2 with either Szoboszlai or McAllister or Trent, he triggered and made an infield run. He immediately made an infield run. So it was that. And whenever there's a chance for a quick transition, which didn't happen as frequently because Liverpool played exactly the way Josh said they would, in terms of they were much more patient with the build-up, much more Arsenal sort of tiki-taka in terms of just playing short passes, etc., patiently getting the ball forward, not as quick, chaotic transition as we're used to seeing from Liverpool. And the moment it reached around the halfway line, a little forward, then there was a quick 1-2 interplay, pitch, and then boom. That's what happened. So the quick transition wasn't as frequent, but when the quick transition was there, Jota, Soboslai, Diaz, and Salah, all four were playing on the last man. And Salah especially was playing central in the half space on the wide man as well. So I think it's happenstance that Salah got no return, but Jota should start the first two games. And it eventually, I think, comes down to captaincy. How often do you see yourself captaining Salah in the first 3 game weeks? And if you're not starting with Salah, there needs to be a contingency plan for him game week 3 or 4, I reckon. That's where my thinking is at the moment.
Russ, your thoughts? Did you catch any of the friendly, the highlights, or any of that?
I did. I watched all of it, and so my reading of this is actually the outcome of Salah is completely overblown. So I completely agree with Ella. Like Salah has always been that player who basically holds the width, but then he creates moments, right? He has those moments where he charges in, either that's in the 70th minute or early on. Then he's also on penalties. Nothing has changed. Nothing in that game that I saw has changed that opinion. I think there are external factors that have changed the opinion of why Salah, do you want to have Salah in addition to Haaland? And that was number one, Trent, right? So we
lost Russ again.
That's a good sign.
We lost you
That's
for
a good sign.
Russ. There, could you just repeat what he said? He said, first of all, Trent.
So first of all, Trent played 70 plus minutes. So that's a good sign that he's ready to start the season. So number one, having a Trent as your second, as your number one Liverpool, for me, Trent becomes almost a number one player that you want from Liverpool. That sort of changed from the preseason. I think Jota provides a additional sexy option from Liverpool. I don't think he covers Salah at all, or I don't think he's an okay option. He's a good, exciting option, but there's also many good, exciting options. And then there's the Salah discussion, which is Salah's a great player. Salah's going to score 220 points, probably. And so in that context, nothing has changed in terms of Salah from the preseason game.
I just want to add a little more context to Salah also. A lot of people are saying that he had 211 points, which was one of his fewest. The seasons before that was 300, 260, 230, 230, 260, 240. He had his fewest minutes last year, and that was A, because of AFCON, and B, because of a hamstring injury. So actually equate around 300, 400 minutes more for Mo Salah. That's equal to 230, 240 points, which is what he averages as usual under Klopp as well. So that is also one thing which people tend to forget, where AFCON happened and his injuries happened. So I'm with you in terms of output. I'm expecting him to be 30 goals plus assists plus comfortably. It's just that are there alternate options that are offering that at the moment? That's the thinking.
Right. And again, we don't know how, we haven't really seen Salah without Klopp since he's been back in the Premier League, right? Like from what I've seen, it does seem like a more of a collective unit we're going to see from Liverpool. And maybe they're at this point, having seen that the balance is being affected with Salah, Solanke, and Trent in the team, maybe I'm looking for reasons to validate that, right? Find confirmation bias. So I'm wary of that in that sense. But what's come down to me now, I don't really feel that confident captaining Salah against Ipswich, which now brings me to the point I'll probably get him in game week 4 instead. And I think that Jota, while on the pitch, he's capable of matching Salah. So I'm happy to take a short-term punt on Jota. Whether I carry Jota into game week 4 or not remains to be seen. But again, I don't think Salah has become a bad pick overnight or anything of that. So there is a little bit of an overreaction definitely to that.
And Pras made 2 excellent points. There are 2 routes for extra points and goals that Mo Salah has that nobody else in Liverpool attack has. Route 1 is penalties, and route 2 is minute 70 to 90. Whichever Liverpool attacker that you go with probably is going to get hooked 60, 65 minutes, except for Mo Salah. And Mo Salah tends to do a lot of his good work. His single return gets converted into braces and triple returns a lot in the 65th to 90th minute. So that's the thing with Mo Salah, which is why he becomes a reliable captaincy option. I have not ruled out going with Mo Salah. I'm constantly tinkering and figuring out how to get Mo Salah in my team with Trent and Dom. And I was talking to a good friend, Bullet Dan, and I think the right point is, you need to accept that maybe you need to start with one of Trent or Salah. I think getting both, if you're getting Dom, also gets a little difficult. And then leave room to get the other one game week 4. I think that's the sort of thinking that needs to happen in the draft. So I kind of agree with that.
Going back to something else you said, Pras, why do you think Trent now becomes the number 1 Liverpool pick?
He's 7 million and he is going to be, so one thing that Josh said was there's going to be control, like more control. There's going to be less chaos. That's the modern football, right? I mean, we used to love watching Liverpool, even as United fans. It's hard to say, but they were an entertaining team because their games were rock and roll, and they would continue to attack in the 80th minute, even if they're only one goal up. That may change. That may change into a more Arsenal style, a more Man City style, a more possession-based football style. And so, therefore, I feel there is an obvious defensive improvement that one can see long term. It may not be in the short term, like Josh said. They may give up free goals initially, but long term, I feel Trent is a better defender this year. And I don't it in this game I didn't see anything different to what I've seen before in terms of it's not like he's going to be inverting so that less attacking or anything else. There is enough potential with him to pass that cross to Jota to get that assist. He took all the set pieces until he was on, then Tsimikas took over. So, he's over Szoboszlai, at least initially it looks like, on set pieces. The guy's 7 million. Like, you can't compare a Saliba or a Gabriel with the fixtures that they have to a Trent with just for a million more.
I'm in agreement. And I almost prefer him playing wide in these half spaces and offering width compared to the central gimmick. I think these angles are just better for Trent.
I'm sold.
And back to our defenders pod. This isn't I said it before kind of thing, but it's basically the other point for Salah is he's not that far from Saka, Foden, Palmer. Like, not in FPL point. Maybe he's better, but is he 2.5 million better is always the question. And then when you look at your third defender, you're thinking, I'm going to play Konza, Palmer play Konza, I'm going to play Palmer, play Robinson. You're talking Saka plus Trent versus Salah and Robinson or Konza. It's just not a contest.
Fixture dependent, though, right?
Let's dive into that. So why don't you have that image with all the premium midfielders on there, and let's just discuss the premium midfielders off the cuff.
Yes, this is the one.
Correct. Like, one thing that stood out to me when I did the video on Saturday was that when it comes to XGI per 90, shots per 90, and big chances per 90, especially big chances per 90, nobody's really close to what Salah offers as goal scoring potential. Where sort of Saka and Palmer are kind of matching Salah is with enhanced creativity. And even then, Salah is producing greater big chances per 90 in terms of how effective he is in the final third. So in my head, Salah is still better than Palmer and Saka. It's just the question that needs to be answered in terms of your perception is how much is he better?
Yeah, is it 2.5
and that how much
million?
Is he better? Yeah.
Or
and I think that layered with captaincy, layered with the picks that you really don't want to compromise on, gives you your answer. That's all. Like, if you find a way in which you're thinking, Ipswich away and United away, I don't see Liverpool keeping clean sheets. I want to start with Trent. I don't want to start with Trent. I'll get Trent in game week 4 if need be. I want to start with Salah and I'll compromise in defense. I don't think that's a terrible idea to get Salah as a differential early on. That's the decision for everybody to make.
How do you guys plan to get Salah in game week 4? Or Trent?
Probably Haaland out. Something like Haaland to Watkins, or I could even do something like Gordon out, because from game week 4, I think Gordon has 3 away fixtures. In the next one, the home fixture is Man City. So in my team, it would be Gordon down for, let's say, a 5.5 million. And I could find another
home,
half million.
Forest home, Chelsea away, and Spurs home. That's Minte's fixtures game week 4 to 8.
Exactly. Something like that. Gordon down to a Minte, but I have to find another 500,000, which you could find from somewhere else.
The thing is, plus the thinking is that I feel like the 5.5 million midfield bracket, we're sort of going to freestyle here because it's fine. It's game week 1. We'll talk about the relevant stuff. There's the 5.5 million midfield bracket is stacked. Like, with 2 in the 5 million bracket as a supporting cast in Bob and Rogers as well. But the 5.5 million midfield bracket is stacked. Somebody will emerge if you're not starting with a 5.5 million midfield bracket. If there are 7-8 good options that we'll take you through today, somebody will emerge. So that's the thinking at the moment.
Fair. Now, the reason I was going there is because I also have that in mind to get Salah game week 5, because game week 4, Haaland is home to Brentford as well. So it would be hard to sell him. Game week 5, he's away to home to Arsenal. So that's a doable path that you could look at. And then he's away to Newcastle if you wanted to hold off the wildcard.
Right. All right. So let's talk about whether he's worth the other premiums. So stay on that slide because we'll finish off the premiums.
Cool.
Yeah, we'll get to the premium.
Show the attacking returns that the other guys got.
Go on.
This is over here. So this is over here. The chart we have now is attacking returns for the entire season, goals and assists. Palmer's on top with 35, Salah is on 30, but Saka is not too far behind, and that's what I wanted to show in all these charts, right? In terms of actual output, Saka had 9 double-digit hauls. Salah also had the same number, very close in terms of attacking return. Now, second half of the season is obviously when we saw Salah really drop off. He had only 11 combined with injuries and AFCON, etc., etc. Saka went up to 16, Palmer at 25, very strong second half. Now, NP XGI, despite limited appearance over here, Salah 10.16, but see the delta in terms of his non-penalty XG, 3.27 down. So you could expect Salah to at least improve on that by at least 2 goals. So what we saw in the second half wasn't the real Salah, and there's a bit of recency bias there in our minds as well. Maybe. You should keep in
And
mind.
Salah, in the last 2 years, because of his age, Salah first half is very different compared to Salah second half. Salah starts off always great, and he tends to whimper because of minutes accumulated. I also want to point out one other thing. If you can go to the NPXGI chart for the full season.
NPXGI full second half. Yes, this one.
So you see NPXGI full season here. Salah is 23.19, 21.77 for Saka. But I want to then take your attention to XG, where Salah is 21.21, Palmer is the next best at 18.21, and after that you have everybody at 15 or below. And you can't forget that you get 5 points for a goal and 3 points for an assist for midfielders. So, like, I just wanted to substantiate that even the other premiums don't quite offer the goal threat that Mo Salah does in terms of underlying data. Like, I just want to substantiate that.
Correct, but the question is, do we know if he still has that goal threat? We should caveat that as well.
Yeah. Agree. Under slot. Yes, I agree. It could even be more, it could be less, but it could even be more.
Right. So you have to always read that with a pinch of salt. The same would apply to Palmer as well. So you could even say that with Son. Now, with the equation with Solanke changes a little bit. So ultimately, in terms of you go with known quantities, I would say in the premiums, Saka and Foden are the most known today because they're playing in established teams, established systems, same manager, etc.
Correct.
And Foden obviously is not pickable right now.
Let's talk about Saka. Because you want to do the Liverpool mids or the premiums?
Let's do the Liverpool mids. Let's do the Liverpool mids because there's a lot of interest in that, and we can cover Diaz also as well, who shows up quite favorably on these charts. Let's talk about him. He looked quite sharp coming off the left yesterday, and I don't think he's in consideration for any of us. Do you think he's perhaps more nailed on than Jota over the long term? By long term, I'm talking about, let's say, up to game week 4 or 5. Pras?
Is he more nailed? We don't know. Like, there's no answer to this. It depends on people coming back. Slot is also, it's strange to say, but Slot has an idea, but he's only started working with these guys for 2 weeks. He's all telling them about the system, how to play, and they're all learning. So after 2 game weeks, he realizes, actually, when my boy Gakpo came on, he was able to understand the instructions much better. He was able to interplay with Szoboszlai a lot better. He's going to start the next game. So Slot himself is discovering these players. So it's just very difficult to predict minutes. You know that if you're going for any of the 4 apart from Salah in that attack, you're taking a punt and you're basically almost booking in a transfer or hoping to get lucky. Apart from that, there's no way you can differentiate. The reason why Jota gives us nice warm vibes is because he's given us nice warm vibes in the past. Whenever we've picked him, he's delivered unless he gets injured. He always is there. He needs 1 chance, 2 chances, gets a goal. So we have a happy, nice feeling owning Jota. A fit Jota is great, but we don't know if Slot agrees with that. Game week 2, he could start Gakpo up top and nobody's shocked. And that applies to Diaz as well, which was the question.
Yeah, like the thinking in my head is that Diaz, Jota, as things stand, Diaz, Jota have similar expected minutes. We don't know how much who's going to rotate in that spot. The reason why I'm more comfortable going with a Jota over a Diaz, even though Diaz looked really good yesterday, but then how much do you want to substantiate the sample size of one game? Because Jota has been there, done that as an FPL asset more than Diaz has for us. Simply put, that has been the case so far, which is why, personally for me, there's a little more comfort going with a Jota compared to a Diaz. That's the basic thinking.
Jota's also had a full preseason compared to Diaz. Yeah. That does count for something as well. And if you ask me, and this is purely personal opinion over here, I think he's their first choice centre forward. Darwin, you could argue, has the whole attributes, the chaos factor, but Jota is simply the best finisher at the club. If like Jota could stay fit, I think he'd generally be pushing close to 25 goals. That's how highly I rate his finishing ability. And he also has obviously a lot to his game in terms of creativity, hold up play, as we saw for the assist for Diaz. So that's why I'm primarily hotter on Jota than on Diaz, because I think if Jota keeps playing well, he has more chance of sticking on with his place.
And
This is true.
Jota couldn't necessarily just play center forward. He could play the Soboslai role. He's capable
Yeah.
of doing that. He could play the Luis Diaz role as well. So his versatility sort of adds to it. I think Diaz is capable of playing only left wing, and that's about it. Maybe right wing if Mo Salah needs some support, but they prefer a left footer out there. So I think Jota's versatility also helps, in my opinion.
Let's summarize the Liverpool mids. Who are you guys thinking of picking now, game week 1? Pras?
Jota or nobody. So, like, definitely not Salah. Not again, I have to re-emphasize because he's still a great pick. You know, we had this discussion on Trent last year when he was 8.5 or 8 million, and we were like, oh, we're not going with Trent. It wasn't because he was bad. We all got him later in the season for different times. It's just not so definitely not Salah. Jota, I'm quite tempted by, and it'll come down to if I like Gordon enough or Jota. I think that's so he will compare himself to other 7.5 mids for me. He doesn't really compare himself to other Liverpool. But I think if people are on a short strategy, wildcard 4, then no brainer. Get Jota because you get 2 starts. You know, hopefully you get Ipswich, you get the home game, and then you know if he doesn't play, he doesn't play. So that's just my thinking. I'm not really considering Diaz at all because I think Gakpo is his boy and he's going to come in at some point.
LR?
Salah or Jota?
Not both.
That's where I am. Could be both also. I'm very much open to both as well. I'm very tempted by Jota for a sprint start at the start of the season because I still do think that the Ipswich game has a decent probability of being a basketball game. I could see 3 goals scored for Liverpool in that game, so I don't mind a couple of eggs in that basket for the start of the season with the comfort blanket that Liverpool have good fixtures to start the season anyway. So yeah, if I can, I think I'm going to have to think hard about whether I want to compromise on Trent for the start of the season because I think that could potentially be the only way in which I can get both.
As it stands, I'd be very surprised if Jota doesn't make my game week 1 squad. I think out of the 3 spots, he's the one I'm fairly certain on to start. The second one is going to come down to between Salah and Trent. I think if I'm not going to captain Salah game week 1, if I'm going to go Isak or Haaland, I'll probably go without and get Trent. In that case, alongside Saka, who I think could easily match Salah over the first 3 game weeks. But
Well,
something I
let's-
also
while
want
we're
to
doing
mention.
Liverpool-
Sorry, just something I want to mention. I've seen a lot of teams with Konsa in there. I think of getting a 4.5 centre back who isn't nailed for Liverpool is potentially wasting a slot. Keep that option open to get the 3 good guys by game week 4.
Yeah, I want to mention that too because one of the best teams, you want the best players. Now, it's a dilemma because Konsa is the value pick in Liverpool, and I think the first choice could be his. But you have players like Salah, Jota, and Trent capable of offering genuine, like crazy upside. So see for yourself whether you want to block yourself from making that move if you commit to a Konsa game week 1. And I feel like there's enough 4.5 million options out there to not to commit to Konsa.
You'd agree, Pras?
I think if it's a short-term wildcard window, you can go for a Konza. He plays the first 2 because I think there was something in the Anfield wrap as well yesterday that there are some rumors that he's not happy with Konate or what he's seen he's not happy with, but they could sign someone, right? So it's a 2-week holiday, 2-week upside, and Liverpool defender, I don't think that upside you need to chase with Konza, right? I mean, if it was Conor Bradley, on the other hand, it's a different discussion. With Konza, it's fine. I mean, there are other 4.5 million. Konate Konza after game week 2 is fantastic. He's almost as good as a Konza. So why would you need to do that? So I'm in agreement. You don't have to go there.
Soboslai, he was good there as well in that attacking sort of 10 role. The problem is Javier exists, and we just don't know if he's locked in and nailed in that role because that's my only problem. I don't mind if somebody wants to take a punt there, but I feel like there are better picks at 6.5 million.
He's one who could become really great or could just fizzle out and have an average season, and you just don't know at the moment. Like I played 2 draft games yesterday night. I did on both of them. I got Szoboszlai because he has that draft upside, right? That nobody thought of in game week 1, but he's getting 10 goals and 5 assists, and that's doable. Like, or 5 assists, or you know, late single digit goals. That's doable for him if he continues to play in that role.
I've got a bit of advice for everybody who's drafting there. If you're drafting Soboslai in, draft Harvey Elliott in as well. So
Yeah.
you covered that
Either or.
number 10 position for Liverpool. On that note, why don't we just do a little sleeper pick that's quite organic in nature as well?
Yeah.
Go for it.
Guys, we've announced this in the past, but we're running a league, which is sponsored by a sleeper. Sorry, guys.
We're running a league which is sponsored by Sleeper, which you guys need to really need to join right now, because it's basically you predicting what the results are going to be every game week, whether a team is going to win, draw, loss. You get 1 point per correct result prediction. You don't even need to predict the score line. It takes 5 minutes to make your predictions. And the moment you do this and you join the FPL Wire league, the top two at the end of the season win a PlayStation 5. And rank 3 to rank 10 at the end of the season win a Premier League kit of their choice. Adidas has dropped a bunch of original kits. So if you guys want to stack up on those kits, in my opinion, and the top pick every month wins a Premier League kit of their choice too. And to make it even better for our YouTube members and our Patreons, to give them exclusive, better chances of winning Premier League kits, the top three in our YouTube member or Patreon kit wins a Premier League kit. And
Every month.
if you're organized every
Every
month, 3 kits every month. We're handing out 50 kits this season. And if you guys want to play a draft as well, we'll probably be organizing a draft this week or during the first international break. Like everybody has spoken to who has played NFL draft has said that Sleeper is the best platform for it. And now they're doing either a snake draft or like a auction mode draft as well. You can do auction also. On Sleeper, I think it's the best platform. Play. Click on the link in the description below, download the app, and especially join our leagues.
Yeah, and I had a few questions, and apologies for the intrusion. I have kids at home these days. It's summer holidays. Especially, like, I had a few questions. If you join our league, you can can join multiple leagues. It's basically spread your risk. Like, join where you can, but join ours. We are not, we want to promote the league because we want as many entrants as possible. We're not compensated in any way by number of participants. It's for you guys to join, because we think if you're watching us, if you support us, you should be in with a chance to win all these fabulous prizes, because I think Sleeper have been very generous. To thank you to them. So we want you guys to join, and we are not incentivized if 1,000 join or 500 join. So please join for yourself.
Cool. All right, premium midfield discussion. Let's do Palmer, Saka, and Foden in one go. So, what are your thoughts on Cole Palmer, and why is he being ignored? What position did he play when he came on in the last 45 minutes in the preseason friendly?
I think he was drifting centrally a lot. He wasn't really keeping the width, which is what I expected, right? You don't expect Palmer to keep the width. The fullback on that side was doing that. Palmer was creating a lot. He did get into the box a few times. He had a few chances, but I think he's going to be given a lot of flexibility, but we have very, very little sample size to judge that. Now, traditionally, Maresca's wingers have been tasked with holding the width, and now we've just signed Pedro Neto, or just about to sign. I think he was there at the bridge yesterday. So you'd expect, now we have Madueke, Mudryk, Sterling, etc., etc. Loads of wingers for more traditional wingers. Because Palmer, you see, is the guy who always drifts inside. So I think Palmer is going to be playing either the 8, the 10, or maybe even centre forward as a false 9 in a central role. So his output will be pretty good. But in general, I think Chelsea are going to take a bit of time to gel under Maresca. So I'm okay with an Nkunku investment right now. 6.5 million feels low, but I'm not as confident about a 10.5.
Russ?
Also, they keep signing every guy in the window, right? Every day is a new day. Like Neto, now João Felix. Like,
You just don't know.
not saying Palmer won't play, but this is a team in transition, right? I mean, this is slightly different discussion from Liverpool, where Liverpool Slot has taken a settled team, barely made any transfers, and maybe he signs a DM, and that's it, right? I mean, team is good. Team can challenge for the title as it is. Now, in this case, Maresca is taking over a team which was improving, but has signed a bunch of new players. They need to gel together. They need to gel to this new system. Just feels like you don't need to, when you have other options. Like if Palmer was still 6 million, we're not having this discussion. He's in our team, just like Nkunku is. So I think it's a case of if you're spending 10.5 million, then you have to really question yourself, what do you believe in? And for you to do well with owning Palmer, Saka has to not match him, right? Salah has to not blow him away. And I can't take those bets. Even Son, I can't take that bet early on.
What do you think,
And
Anand?
my thinking is, Zoff said that they'll take a while to get going. And I feel like Nkuku at 6.5 million is a gift that I don't want to give up on. Because I think he could pretty much play in the same position Palmer does. Palmer has the added benefit of penalties. And I don't want to double up on that Chelsea attack just yet, which is why I won't be starting with Palmer.
And Kunku came very close to scoring also yesterday. And the positions he's getting, he's constantly in the box. He's not very useful outside it. So he's always going to be crashing and being near goal. At 6.5, you want goal threat. Which
He's so
Nkunku
clean,
really
man.
offers.
Every time I'm watching Nkuku and Chelsea in preseason, I'm like, what a player, man. He's like clean. He doesn't waste a touch. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you've never been
whatever he
obsessed with
does,
Chelsea players at all.
ever. But he's exactly the opposite of the kind of Chelsea players that I've been obsessed with in
Yes,
general.
that is true.
So yeah. So yeah, cool. Saka, man, both of y'all are considering.
Yeah.
And
Can
I
we
think
bring up his
is in
stats
your
bomb data?
Game Week 1 drafts was Saka, Game Week 1. Talk to me, man. I've missed out on Saka for all these years.
Press, want to go first?
Saka, I mean, he's the FPL darling, man. I mean, on pens, takes corners from one side, is basically the go-to guy from, nailed 90 minutes. And he's playing for a team that is insane. Like, a lot of people are predicting them to win the league. And when you're talking about a team like that, then we have to forget about Arsenal. We have to think of them like the old Liverpool 4 years ago, who were challenging City, right? So this is a serious team. So 10.5 or 10 million, sorry, for Saka seems like a great deal. I mean, if Saka was 11.5, you a million less than Salah, you wouldn't say it's a bad price. So I just think he's a good pick. He ticks every single fantasy box: set pieces, minutes, penalties, and goal scoring threat. So
Most
good
number
pick.
of penalty touches in the season last year.
So he's just a very, very good pick. As is Palmer, as is Son, as is Foden. But there are other problems, like with Palmer we've just talked about. We'll talk about Son and Foden after. But I just think in isolation he's a great pick who's got 2 home games with huge upside. Brighton at home, Wolves at home in the first 3. You pick him and then you see where you have to go for his next 2 after that, or his next fixtures after that.
Let's analyze the shot map from StatsBomb we see over here. Now, for those of you guys who are seeing these images for the first time, the red and brown images are higher XG, the blue are lower. So you see a lot of low XG chances over here from Saka. I'm not seeing lots of reds over here. High volume of shots, but not very high quality shots, but he's a very good finisher. That works for him, right? Because you see his XG over here is 10.4 and he scored 10 from 102 shots. So that's pretty much 1 every 10 shots on the goals in. So that conversion rate seems quite low, right? But the
Yeah,
thing
but
that, go ahead.
you see the attacks come from that side. Basically, they're still in flux. By the way, they're in the market for a left-sided winger. I don't think Arteta is fully settled with Trossard and Martinelli. So there could be Nico Williams or even Leroy Sané they've been linked with. That could change a little bit. If it's somebody who's really good like a Nico Williams, that the attacks start drifting towards the left-hand side rather than the right-hand side. But for the moment, yes, all the attacks, you can see that Odegaard, Saliba gets the ball, he passes it to Rice passes it to Odegaard finds Saka, who's making a run, and then Saka will either shoot or he'll basically pass it to someone else. So you can see that pattern of play that Arsenal fully do when they have high possession.
There's some creativity numbers also. I'm just going to pull up that chart over here. But another thing I want to mention about Saka is, do you ever feel confident captaining him? Now look at game week 3, for example. Now that week you have Haaland, who's at West Ham away. When you see that Lopetegui might be better, decent defensively. It's not as easy a fixture. Salah is away to Manchester United. Okay, good fixture. But again, in terms of high ceiling, you're looking at Saka at home to Brighton. Would you feel confident captaining him that week?
Yes.
You
I mean,
think
not that week, but in general, to answer your question, yes, I think we should be. I'm open to captaining him game week 1 as well. But Isak looks very good, so you have a good alternative. I get it that you might just go Isak, but I think he's a good captain 1 and 3. Whether I'm comfortable, we'll have to learn, right? I mean, there were moments, you remember 2 seasons ago when it was Kane and Saka, and I think the 3 of us all went Kane and Saka did well. I think we have to change our mindset. He's delivering 200 plus points, and he has lots of routes to points. Why not captain him?
Yeah, because the table earlier surprised me that he's had 9 double-digit hauls. Because I don't know, for me it never felt like it. Because he had the same number as Salah, and we always use Salah as a higher ceiling player. But Saka is getting there. Your thoughts on the
Against the
captaincy,
Bramble
Ella?
opposition,
Yep.
Haaland averaged 9.4 points per start. Palmer averaged 10 points per start. And Saka averaged 7.5 points per start. Like that's the thing. Like in our head, it's not explosive, but Salah averaged 6 points per start last season against easy opposition. Just thought I'd add that data. The two things though I really like about Saka, like there's a world in which he has another gear in him. He's only 22. Like we probably might have not even seen the best of Saka, and he's been making strides every year. Like last year was better than the year before that. So what is his ceiling? He could go higher in output as well. And I think Arteta realized that towards the end of last season. Remember when the point at which I sold Saka, he was playing Saka very wide, and then he shifted and changed things around so that he could get Saka more and more into centered positions, which is why his underlying data went up. I think Arteta knows that he's probably his output merchant. That's the one thing. And the second thing is Saka's fixtures, man. It's just not the two home games. I think the first four are great for Saka. He's got Wolves at home and Brighton at home, like Pras mentioned. And Villa and Spurs away, I think, are good attacking fixtures for Arsenal. Genuinely think there are goals there for the taking. So I might be talking myself into Saka at the moment as well. Just a good
Villa
pick.
beat them
Nothing
twice
against
last year. So not that it repeats or it matters, but Unai Emery, I mean,
They didn't score
there's
either
a
time, in
narrative,
fact.
right?
They kept clean sheets in both fixtures.
Exactly. So I would be cautious, and I would be happy to get Saka despite that. But this is the reason why it's not the greatest of starts, and we're not talking Arsenal triple ups in the first 5 weeks. They do have 3 tricky away games, and I don't know. I wouldn't have Odegaard and Saka, for example.
Let's
I'd
do
agree with that.
Odegaard. Why not Odegaard instead of Saka? What's the thinking there?
Pras?
Just delta in numbers, delta in projected points. Like I think Saka will outscore Odegaard by 30-40 points at the end of the season. So is that worth the 1.5 million? Feels like it, especially if captaincy comes into it. I just think Odegaard is a great pick, and if during good fixture periods, it will be a question whether people get Havertz as their second Arsenal or they get Odegaard as their second. It'll come down to supply and demand, and do you have 3 good strikers or do you have 4 good midfielders? I don't think there's much in it. I think he's a great pick as well, but not in this early period.
I feel like with Odegaard, you almost have to commit to him for the season because I think he's a little less predictable. Like I was looking at some of the data on Scout. He's got 9 double-digit hauls. Only Cole Palmer has more double-digit hauls than Odegaard, but he's blanked in 22 out of 35 games. Like that's a huge amount of
number. You need to have
blanking.
a patience of a saint to be persisting with like 3 blanks because the 16 is coming around the corner, but like it's a good
Exactly.
point.
That's the thing. He's got a potential to up his output, but I want to see it first before I go.
So one other word on Arsenal's structure, midfield, right? I mean, clearly we're seeing this shift where Havertz is moving up top. Even though Jesus looked good preseason, I think we all know Havertz is the guy who will play up top, which basically means Rice isn't the 6. Rice becomes this hybrid 6 and 8, which basically gives Odegaard more license. I feel like when it's Odegaard and Havertz in midfield, Odegaard has to be a little bit more constrained because it's Rice who's basically the 6, and Havertz will obviously press high. So I think that dynamic is also important. They have signed Moreno and Partey is now fit. So if that's the dynamic where it's always Rice and Odegaard is the furthest of the 3 who's forward, then that's very interesting.
Great point. Good point.
I'd agree with that.
Martinelli, Trossard, interested? We'll finish Arsenal off.
Not really. Better picks
Because
in the
they-
center bracket.
Yeah, just haven't got it yet. All right, then Phil Foden in the premium cab that's left.
The Sun also, but let's get to Foden first. Because of the game week 1 uncertainty, I don't think there's really much we can pick on him right now. But I think in game week 2 and 3, he could be the mid to have. I think now he's going to be playing a lot more centrally from what we've heard. We're going to have Grealish playing on the left side. You have Savio or Bob on the right side going by I think that was Sam Lee's latest Athletic article. I think Foden could be absolutely gold now with Alvarez gone. Assuming, of course, they don't sign anyone.
It's just he's not starting, right? So he's not. Yeah. So like, I can have this discussion on my wildcard, and I think it'll be a big discussion on wildcard 6. And I think a lot of people will have Foden and Haaland, and then we'll struggle to fit in a Saka and somebody else. So like this is a headache, when you say it's tomorrow's guy's problem. Like I'll drink tonight. It's the next tomorrow guy's problem when we wake up. So I think it's the next guy's problem when he'll have to wildcard. Then we'll figure it out. But I think Foden is on for a 220, 230 plus season, especially if he's playing more centrally, like Pep has said, like he did
Just
last
one
season
thing,
as well.
like for Foden to do what he did last season again, he overperformed his expected goals by 8.8, which was the most in the league. So he's either Messi level elite talent, or it reverts to the mean a little. He's performing 3 or 4 plus delta over his XG, because I do think he's a better finisher than your average player as well. But that is just something you have to adjust expectation, and we'll not waste time on it right now. It's not a game week one pick.
Yeah.
Let's talk about
Son.
Sonny. It's an interesting. How do you think the dynamic changes with Solanke in there now? Ella?
Solanke likes to drop deep and involve those around him as well. I think he's a more well-rounded player than Richarlison was. Richarlison is more tip of the spear, finishes the chances. I think Solanke is better at bringing others into play, so it could increase Son's output. Son is a good pick in the first half of the season. I worry about him being a pick in the second half of the season because he's getting old now, and the implications of minutes on these players are showing. But game week one, good one. And Leicester away, who are struggling at the moment, and Everton at home, who I think Son likes to play against from memory, if I'm not wrong. Good start to the season, and then you can punt on whichever one. But I feel like Saka's better.
Russ, would you be happy to hold on to Son after the first two fixtures? It's Newcastle and then Arsenal.
Not really. And that's the reason why I'm a little bit hesitant. So, look, first thing on Son, he has played with Kane his whole career, right? So, nothing has changed. Like, if you look at stylistically, Solanke is maybe Kane light, right? Like, he does similar things. He drops deep, holds the ball, does all the things really well, heads the ball well. So, I think he's played with a player like that on the left forever and done very well. I think the impact from Solanke, which we don't know yet, is pens. Does Son keep pens or does Solanke keep pens? That's a huge thing. If you're thinking of output and if you're spending 10 million, like I've got Palmer and Saka right there who take pens, right? So the reason why Foden is 0.5 cheaper is because he doesn't have pens. So I don't want to pay the same price as Saka if Son doesn't have pens. If Son has pens, I think he's just as a good pick. What makes it different is now you have another pick that is much cheaper. So you're thinking, do I want to double up on Spurs or not? If I can get to if I can access a Spurs attacker for 7.5 million, who gets at the end of a lot of big chances, fair enough. But I think if there is an excellent fixture run, why not Son plus Solanke? I think he's still a good pick.
The Solanke point is spot on. I wouldn't want to land in game week 3 with Son and Solanke.
Agree. Nothing to add.
Let's touch upon the other guys. De Bruyne. A pick at all? Any merits to discuss over there?
All the
I
messages.
think he starts game week one.
Yeah.
I do think he starts game week one. But I'm worried about his minutes and I'm worried about his age. A decent punt to start the season. But I want to now see proof in the pudding before going there.
I don't
Same.
mind him because he seems to always score against Chelsea. I do think he starts. As a punt, I would say I wouldn't go with him over a Saka, but let's say you're not going Haaland. I don't mind that as, let's say, a second midfielder.
But then you'd want Foden from game week 2.
You
Right?
want
Like
Foden eventually. I think
the
you
pick
could
from
maybe
City
ride
is
it
Foden.
to Ipswich. You could ride the Ipswich game and then you eventually want to switch him out to Foden after that.
Fair enough.
I just prefer the other premium.
I'd
to
agree
De
with that
Bruyne.
because let's talk about the next batch. I think Odegaard versus Bruno. Who do you guys prefer? LR?
Currently, Bruno's in my draft. Like that's the thinking.
That's why
Like
I asked you.
he's been the gut feeling that I've had for the last 8 or 10 days. And it's that one spot where I have Bruno plus $1.5 million or Saka. Like literally, that's the spot that I am deciding if I'm going without Mo at the moment. And I feel like going with it's a head versus a heart decision a little bit as well, right? But it's just whether I want to back my read where there has been a change in our formation, where the 10 is playing more as a 9.5 than as a 10. And Bruno had to do a lot of everything last season, where Shaw and Martinez weren't there, so he had to grab the ball from behind. Menu was our only ball progressor. Casemiro's come back fitter. Menu's still in there. Mount is still there, who's capable of playing in midfield. And we've got ball players at the back as well. So Bruno might not have to do everything. And Mount's position in preseason was very advanced, especially off the ball when he was pressing. So I feel like Bruno could be playing closer to goal with the upside of Bruno playing center forward, false nine, game week 1 also. Xerxes, there are rumors that Xerxes got minutes in a behind the doors friendly, but if not, Bruno starting false nine, or he plays Rashford as a striker and Ahmad and Garnacho on both the wings. So this is what possibly have. I feel like if Bruno has a good setup behind him, he's capable of much more output and being closer to the output that he had under Solskjaer. It's just what's behind him at the moment because he doesn't have to do everything. I think he's better in the final third. And I think that might happen this season, which is why I'm tempted to start the season with him because he's got a decent floor in being a 10 anyway, being on penalties anyway, and being a 90-minute merchant anyway. So there is a decent floor meeting sort of pick with a decently high ceiling. That's the thing.
The 1.5 million counts a lot. So, because plus, for example, it could be a Bruno and a Gabriel versus a Saka and a Robinson. It's about the same price, right? Where do you land on that sort of combination?
I think captaincy will come down to it. But I guess at some point, you have to say if you already have a Guardiola, if you already have a Trent, then do you want to do that trade-off? Like you don't need you can have a rotating third defender. So it's to answer that question directly. I think it's good to have a second premium, or I'm calling all these guys premiums, Sakas and all. It's good to have a second premium for captaincy. I just think that's relevant. And so the structure-wise, I just don't like having nobody after Haaland. If your next most expensive player is 8.5 million, structurally doesn't sit right with me. Like if you need one of the big hitters, how do you get it? Like if you need Palmer in game week 3, how do you go there? So without selling.
So that's the bit of advice. If I am not getting Saka instead of Bruno, the gap is the money I'm saving in the bank. I'm not spending it. It's exactly because of what you mentioned. Like in terms of slightly more flexibility, I'm not spending the money for Saka. I'm just starting with Bruno. Then if Bruno sticks as a pick, I need to shift other things around. So that's the only thing.
Right.
So,
but tell me, like I'm looking at. So by the way, I'm on the Rashford, Garnacho, Ahmad front three. Like I'm quite certain. Like it could be Bruno false nine, but that was I feel Man City. We played the same 4 up front to press against Man City in the FA Cup. So we basically tried it again. I genuinely think it would be Rashford, Garnacho, and Ahmad. But then still Bruno is a good pick. But then after Fulham at home, there's away Brighton, away Southampton, away Crystal Palace, and home Liverpool and home Spurs as the next 5. I'm not seeing 2+ goals in any of them.
Yeah, by your point, I just think away Brighton, home Liverpool, away Southampton isn't that bad. I don't think it's bad for an 8.5 million pick.
Yeah, fair enough.
That's it. And I feel like Man had no preseason and looked like the fittest player on the pitch on Saturday.
That is completely true. And maybe there's a bias because I had double Man United mids last year at the beginning and completely ruined the beginning of my season.
I am treading with caution. I know in my head Saka is the surer thing. But it's just whether I want to act on this feeling that I've had about Bruno. Zoff knows, I've been telling him I've been feeling Bruno since about 8-9 days, especially because of Mount's positioning. So I don't know what I want to do. And good memories. Like my last good season was when I started with Bruno game week 1. So
you said you're going to pick pen takers this year. More.
So it's Saka or Bruno. Both are pen takers. So I'll just decide what I'm doing that position.
I get it. So LR 3.0 is more analytical, Zoff, I can see. Because Bruno is the analytical
pens and minutes.
I'm just pulling a leg. No, it's fine. He's a good pick. Look, I just don't. Between him and Saka, I think there's no contest, personally, for me.
That's fair because Arsenal are the much better attacking team, for sure.
Correct.
Arsenal are capable of 3+ goals more than United by a distance. I agree with that.
And the structure point is a great one. We were having this discussion on Discord yesterday as well. It's just very easy to move a 10 million guy to anywhere else you want versus 8.5. It becomes quite difficult to get money out of defense from various positions.
If you're not banking the cash.
Obviously.
Of course. Then the structure is not important. Then that slot is 9 million slot. In fact, it's more flexible than a 10 million slot.
Exactly the point I'm trying to make. I feel like it's slightly more flexible if you're going and spreading the money because then you don't need to downgrade that money. Okay. You can spend that money wherever you want to respect.
Right. Let's do a quick ranking for the premium mids before we move to the next bracket. I think Salah goes on top if it's price irrespective.
Yeah. For game week 1, Salah then Saka.
I think that's going to be common for us, right? I think I'm just going to throw out of it. I think Salah, Saka, Son, Palmer, top 4 to start with.
Do you think Palmer starts Game Week 1, Zoff, for people
think
that
so.
do want to start with him? He starts
It's
Game Week
Man
1, you
City.
think?
It's
His
too big
home
a
club.
game. Exactly, it's Man City.
Cool. It's funny because we are all, I've not seen a single Twitter draft with Palmer and he's 45% owned. Like, it's ridiculous. Like,
It's
half the
going to be
game.
like Kane. You remember when
Yeah.
the years of premiums, when all of Twitter had Salah and who was the other guy? Somebody else, and nobody had Kane, and Kane kept scoring and scoring and scoring. It was 3 seasons ago, I think.
The Mourinho season,
And
right?
yeah, and basically FPL Twitter had a horrible start. So it could be similar. Palmer goes off and goes off to a flyer. There's some lot of good picks with high ownership that are nowhere to be seen on Twitter. Like Watkins is another one.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Cool. So you guys agree
Cool,
with the
so-
ranking there? We'll move on to the next bracket.
I'll ask you both. For 8.5 million, Odegaard or Bruno?
Odegaard.
Bruno.
All right.
For the fixtures.
Let's...
For the fixtures that Arsenal have.
I talk about fixtures
and the
and the team
penalties.
pedigree.
I think they count for something.
They do. Cool.
All
Let's-
right. Then next bracket is at 7.5 million. Let me just let me go by price. Hold on. We have Jota, Diaz. We already discussed Liverpool. The names we'll discuss is Gordon, and Bowen.
And Eze also.
That's
Let's check Eze. Then we'll have a look at the 6. Let's have a look at 7 to 7.5. Then we look at 6.5 and 5.5. Let's go with
Cool.
that. So I think the main ones Jota we've discussed is Eze now. Very interesting. I watched the entire bits of the Palace game yesterday. And again, if you guys haven't seen it, watch the highlights. We've been bigging up Munoz from day one. Munoz was high on all sorts of things. He was literally
He was
in the box
insane.
all the time.
It was insane.
So yeah, these are the numbers. Now this is Eze's creativity numbers. You see the creativity is obviously from all over the place. Good, only 4 assists. Let me find his XG chart over here. Yep. Now, a lot of shots from outside of the box, but I also do want to contextualize this by giving some numbers which we had under Glasner. Let's have a look at that. I'm just going to bring up that chart really quick. Yeah. You see the massive shift we've seen in the terms of the XG over here, conceded an improvement in attacking output. And minutes per expected goal involvement now in the Glasner era, we're talking about 120.1 for Eze, which is just marginally behind Salah, and the likes of that. So Eze was posting premium numbers. The caveat here, though, also this is when Olise was fit. We have to keep that in mind also, right?
Just adding to the data, under Glasner, in 11 games, he had 6 goals and 3 assists. So almost a returner game. And he was leading the team for shots and chances created, 35 shots and 21 chances created. So highest in the league. And amongst midfielders with at least 600 minutes, he's 5th for minutes per shot. Only behind Salah, Palmer, Saka, and Foden. So the cheapest midfielder who takes a shot that high frequently is Foden. That's the thing. The only thing is, like you mentioned, 45% of his shots come from outside the box. So he does like a prop from outside the box. But he was very involved, man. The only thing is we're worried about the transfer, right? At the moment, we don't know where he's going to be Game Week 1 or Game Week 2 or Game Week 3. That's my biggest issue.
The Spurs, the City, lots of other clubs are interested in the fact that they're looking to sign Zaha on loan. Sorts of makes me worry because they already have now, they got Kamada, they signed Sarr already. What do they need Zaha for? Zaha sorts of makes me feel they're prepping for that Eze departure. What are your thoughts, Pras, on Eze and Palace in general?
I think he's the best of the lot between the 7 to 8 million bracket if he stays. So I don't think there's much to discuss in terms of his numbers. Like he's the boomer of last season. Like, you had good fixtures, that opportunity where you have a midfielder on pens who takes a lot of shots. He's basically a boomer from Crystal
Who's genuinely very good in open play also.
Also was boomer. But anyway. So I just don't think it needs a lot of discussion. He's a great pick for a new manager who's playing really well, who's got his team going. I think if Olise is left, if anything, that guarantees him on penalties now. I think Mateta will start because he's now fit from the Olympics. It's not like he needs a break. He already had a break before Olympics. So he's had his preseason essentially in the Olympics. So I think Mateta is ready to go, if not Game Week 1, Game Week 2. So that it's not like I'm thinking that their attack is going to suffer completely because of Olise. Fine, it will a little bit, but Kamada is good, Sarr is good. So I think Eze is a great pick. It just comes down to, will he go anywhere? And we'll be all watching on Friday. If there's even a slightest hint or a rumor then yeah, he won't make it. But otherwise, he will definitely make it.
I mean, the problem is
if there's
it
no
could be
rumor by
gone by game week.
Friday,
Yeah, no, sorry, what I was saying, even if he doesn't move by Friday, he could move by game week 2 or game week 3 also. That's the
Then we pull
problem.
the
The
wild
entire
card,
1 to
man.
3
I mean,
period is the problem.
yeah, this is the reason why an early wildcard appeals to me. Like there are these things where we are, we'll come to Oscar Bob's and the 5.5 million gang. There are lots of these picks which are really, really sexy for the first 3 weeks, but then after that you could be sitting there with a dud player. And
I've been
so
debating that 7 million bracket plus. So, like, given the risk, like, as his money fixtures come game week 4, like, first 3 are Brentford away, West Ham home, and then Chelsea away. So, is it worth the risk to start with, given that he could shift to another team game week 1? Like, that's the question I have. Like,
And on
isn't
the other,
Gordon a safer?
for the first 3 especially, I look at Gordon's fixtures. The first is Southampton, Bournemouth, and Spurs, out of which 2 of them are at home. It's the reverse for Eze. It's only 1 home fixture.
And Jota
And
at
Jota.
that price.
would do. I mean, I don't want to use a transfer in that position. Like, this is the other thing. I want to set up my game week 1 team with limited need for transfers. So back in the time, we used to think, okay, these are the sort of pieces we will move before wildcard and then we'll wildcard. My thinking is slightly different. I'm open to doing like a Haaland to Salah switch in game week 5 for captaincy. That kind of switches make sense to me. But unless Eze has left, I'm not doing a Gordon to Eze move. I'm not using one free transfer on that. That's my thinking at the moment. I completely agree. Probably Gordon outscores him for the first 3. But if Eze stays, there's no competition. In the first 5, I think Eze will outscore Gordon.
I
So
agree. If Eze sticks at Palace, I think he's the best player in that price bracket. I agree with you. It's just we don't know.
Let's talk about Anthony Gordon now. It's another interesting one. First up, do you guys expect him to start this weekend? And
Yes.
it's not like we're going to get any clues from Eddie Howe. Eddie Howe could be saying that Gordon's name is on the starting team sheet, and I wouldn't believe him at all.
exactly.
I think he's going to start game week 1.
I think so too. Maybe 60, 70 minutes odd is what he gets. But I think the start is happening there. Where are you on Gordon
Yeah.
first?
Look, he was in my draft until Jota showed up. So I have Eze and that 7.5 slot. So it's not like I don't like Gordon as a pick. I think the first fixture is there for the taking. But then again, Planet FPL Correspondence Week pod, people were not sure. I've seen a few other pods, or actually Ed from Scout saying, he may or may not start. And that's down to a couple of things. One, Murphy is completely tearing it up on the right-hand side. And so it looks like he may just continue for momentum. Like they don't need to move him out, right? When a guy is in red hot form like Almiron style, they don't need to not play Murphy. So then on the left-hand side, you could play Harvey Barnes, or you could have a situation where Gordon starts but gets 50-ish minutes or 55 minutes, could be 60. So I'm just then thinking, is that worth the risk of me thinking Eze is going to leave? Because, Eze may not want to leave as well. So at the moment, he's not in my team. I also think 3 away games and 1 home game, which is Spurs. Now, that's a great one. But I just think this in the first 5, everything that I'm looking at is the first 5 game weeks, because I'm definitely wildcarding in game week 6. Then it's 3 away games for Gordon. I don't love it as much as I would love an Eze.
I don't know. I'm a Gordon fanboy. I just feel the ceiling is there because I think Bournemouth also a bit out of sorts after losing Solanke. I can see those 2 fixtures being really good, and just I want to get a good start on the board the first 3 game weeks, and I think Gordon gives me that more so than Eze.
I feel like Gordon is a pick I'll be happy to hold in this price bracket, irrespective of fixtures. Like, there's a couple of things. Like, there are 2 or 3 players in my head who are capable of making a huge leap this year, given their age profile, given their growth curve, etc. Gordon's one of them. Because now Newcastle have Joelinton and Bruno Guimaraes, and I think that's huge. I think people are overlooking Isak as a captaincy option because Newcastle with Guimaraes and Joelinton back, I can't state how big this is for them. And I think they are capable of blowing teams apart, 3-4 goals. And Gordon is almost Salah-like in terms of how output focused he is. When the ball goes down that left wing, etc., he places himself in the center of the box to score a goal. Like he loves to, and we've seen that video that Baker shared with us before the Euros as well. Like he wants to become the best player in the league. And I think he's got the tools to do that. So, like, even though he got 27 returns, he was behind only the 9.5 million midfielders and Salah for attacking returns last season. Like he got an incredible amount of returns, and I think he's capable of producing 30 returns again. Genuinely capable of hyping up that big league. So I think I want to stop and call. That's where I feel strongly about him making even a further leap this year.
Another the two away fixtures are difficult. It's Fulham away and Wolves away, if I remember right. Then it's Man City at home.
I just think Bruno and Joelinton back is huge. Like I can't state how big it is. Like Joelinton was amazing for them last year, and then they sort of had a dip when he didn't play. And the second thing is no Europe, man. I think it's understated how important no Europe is to Newcastle.
No, Newcastle are around for a good season.
Around for a good season. So yeah. That's how strongly I feel about Gordon.
I mean, we'll come to rankings, but it basically comes down to Jota versus Gordon versus Eze, and pick two.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Let's do it. We'll discuss it. Which two are you rank them?
Two more names we just want to cover first, and there's not that much, but we should touch upon them, are Bowen and Bruno. There's just, what do you guys think? I think is Bowen pickable at all, or it's just the fixtures are just too bad to start with?
They're not too bad. Villa home, Palace away, City home, Fulham away. It's just the other ones have better fixtures. And Lopetegui is known to be a defensive, but that West Ham team is legit, man, now.
Yeah, with Fulkrug in there now, Fulkrug, Kudus, Paqueta, they're ballers.
Todibo, Van Bissaka, like they're a proper team. I think on the Wildcard, West Ham will be very popular because they just happen to have good fixtures and tough fixtures at the start of the season.
Correct. Wildcard 6 will be there. Whether it's Fulkrug, well, it's a team, again, similar to Chelsea. Now, they could be more settled. Because the manager has managed in the league and he knows, and West Ham is not that much influx like Chelsea in terms of signings, but actually they are. So you want to figure them out, like over the first 5 weeks. There's not one fixture where you can say this is a banker West Ham win, right? I mean, Aston Villa at home, Villa are good. Crystal Palace away, Crystal Palace are good, especially at their home. Then you have Man City. So the first three, you're already, if you're committing to a Bowen, I'm not confident of more than 2 goals in those 3 games.
Moving on to Bumo. Again, the 2 away fixtures, there are the tricky ones, right? Liverpool and City.
And Tony needs to leave.
Yeah,
he needs pens.
I think, he probably will, but that's not happened yet.
Yeah, so Tony could start, and then so Bumo could be very, very interesting again if he gets pens back.
But at the moment, Tony plays for Brentford City FC.
Exactly.
So Brentford FC, I don't know why I said City. And there's another 7 million midfielder. We should just fleetingly mention him, Marcus Rashford. I know a couple of people going there. I just want to say it's Jekyll and Hyde. It depends on which Rashford shows up. And good luck trying to predict that.
Let's do our rankings then. Top 3. LR, come to you first.
Gordon, Jota, Eze. And the number 1 ranking with Gordon got a sort of substantiated while talking to you guys. Like while I was talking about him, I realized how I feel about him. So Gordon, Jota, Eze.
Frost, I think I know the answer. But what about you?
Yeah, Eze, Jota, Gordon.
Yeah. So it's all different for all of us. I think for me, Jota goes right at the top because all the 3 players we mentioned, I think Jota is the only one who has hat-trick potential in one of those 3 fixtures. You could be looking for a ceiling pick to start off the season with strong is Jota, but obviously he's the one who could most likely lose a spot and require a transfer out. So it depends on how heavy you want to go on that. Second,
Jota probably has the shortest shelf life.
Exactly. Probably. So you have to keep in mind accordingly, if you're going for a shorter wildcard horizon, then it's a no-brainer. You go with Jota. Eze, I like him a bit more after game week 3. The fixtures are better than he starts off right over with Leicester at home. So I would say Jota, Gordon, Eze for me.
All right, let's do the one. Yes, the 6.5. We'll do 6 and 6.5 midfielders together.
Yes.
Because we've got the names I want to mention. We'll cover Bailey, we'll cover Madueke, we'll cover Nkuku, we'll cover Soboslai, we already covered. We'll do City in 1 round, Garnacho. But first, let's talk about let's just hit the 6.5 million midfielders that come to your mind who are good picks in your opinion, instead of just going one by one. Plus, who excites you in this bracket?
Nkunku, we've talked about him. Gibbs White because of the initial fixtures.
Let's discuss Nkuku first. Zoff, what have you made of him from preseason?
Quality player, and I think the good thing is I think we'll score goals. We're still creating chances in all these games over preseason. We conceded a lot of chances, but every game I think we created more big chances than the opposition. And Nkunku is constantly around the box, and he's an output merchant. He's not going to be the guy creating the hockey pass, the pass before the assist. So The thing with Nkunku is that obviously the game week 1 fixture isn't great, but he's a set and forget. Once you get him, you don't have to think about it for the next 5-6 weeks. For the fixtures after game week 1 are really good. So you're getting essentially a player who I think should have been closer to an 8 million asset at 6.5 in a team that I think will still be an attacking team. May not win the games, but will still score a goal or two. So I think Nkunku is the best pick in that bracket.
I agree. He's the best pick in that bracket. Russ?
Yep, no doubt. No doubt.
Yeah.
I mean, especially if you have a little bit of a longer term horizon, you want to keep the Chelsea player and you don't want to commit to a wild card. After Man City, their fixture run is amazing as well.
The next
What
thing
about, let's discuss Morgan Gibbs White.
Yeah. He's
Like
lost
Pras
set
mentioned him.
pieces. That I think Pras mentioned him. And the main thing we should mention, as per the scout write-up, he's not taking set pieces anymore with Anderson
Yeah.
taking a lot. So that's obviously
And
taken him
Elanga.
down a notch. And Langa also. So that's taken him a few notches down in my book.
Yeah, and his underlying data is never the best. So it's like a Bumo light or Eze light, right? I mean, so you're really like trying to pick a team in which a manager is a defense first manager. So it's not exciting. Like, in fact, LR asked the question, who's the exciting pick? Morgan Gibbs White is not an exciting pick. He's the pick that you know will get you trickle some points, get an assist here, maybe get a penalty. But yeah, without set pieces, that appeal drops a bit.
Will he find a way into your team, you think?
No, not interested.
I've never felt the Morgan Gibbs White pick ever. Like he does a lot of Bruno from last year. You know what I'm saying? He has to do a lot of other things, play a little deep, progress the ball, etc. as well. So he's not always in the final third for me.
He's one the algorithms really like, and he's a great footballer. But in terms of the FPL pick, again, I don't really trust Forest attackers. I'm always a bit hesitant on that front. Let's talk
Mitoma?
Bailey. Mitoma is interesting, but before that, let's shout out Bailey because I've got his numbers up here. Now, in terms of XGI per 90, he's just marginally behind the likes of Son, Eze, and all that stuff. In terms of output, he's very good, but again, there's a very big bias in terms of home and away numbers for him, similar to Gordon. In terms of injury, I think he's been a little bit better. I've always looked at Bailey as a player who's a walking injury risk, but he started quite a few games. But after the first 3, which is when Villa's decent run really starts, do you think Bailey is a potential rotation risk for Champions League?
Difficult to say. I mean, Villa is a little bit of a question mark because of the Champions League. Like, could they have a season like Newcastle did last year, right? So there's a little bit of that. But then Diaby is also left, so that position is pretty much his. Like on the
Pretty
right,
much his.
like McGinn could play on the right, or maybe they sign somebody. But other than that,
Philogans, whatever his name is, also I think he plays on
Philogene.
the right as well. Yeah, Philogene.
Yeah, his position is his. I'm with Pras.
Villa
It
is
could be a
little-
potential sleeper pick.
Yeah, definitely.
I think he's 4.5% when I just looked. Genuine sleeper pick because Villa have good fixtures to start with.
But when you compare him to an Nkunku type pick, where you know that the guy will probably start all Premier League games, right? I mean, if they have to be rested, it'll be that Mickey Mouse European Cup that Chelsea are in. So that's the game. So Chelsea won't play that, or Nkunku won't play that. So you get a lot more minute certainty, injury risk aside. And Nkunku before this injury was actually pretty okay. So I think Bailey's good, and I think for me, he's probably the second or third best over a medium term, not looking just at short term fixtures, but probably not going there.
Move on to the next
I want to
one.
shout out a 6.5 million pick. Just like Gordon, I think there's a player that's capable of making a huge jump this season in terms of output. I don't quite think he's a game week 1 pick because Amad Diallo exists and there might be some minutes management. But I think Garnacho is capable of making a genuine leap in output this year. Like I was very impressed with what I saw in 60, 65 minutes. I really rate the player as well. He's had a full bed-in season last year. And I think he's going to cement the position on our right wing or left wing even. Watch out for him once game week 3, 4, 5 sort of come into play. I just don't think he's a game week 1 pick at the moment. And one for the wildcard, especially if Pras's theory in terms of Rice playing as an 8 instead of a 6, and them actually playing Merino as a 6. If Rice plays advanced and he's hitting an assist a game through his set pieces, it could be something there at 6.5 million.
I live for the day I see Declan Rice in your team, LR.
The transformation will be complete.
Do you remember Xhaka under Arteta in that 8 role?
I do.
Did you see the friendly? He was in the box so much yesterday. Like he was genuinely in the box so much. So if they find a genuine 6 and Rice is given license, he's 6.5 million. He was 10th scoring midfielder last year.
I mean,
Like,
Rodri was up there as well.
He was the
Yeah,
highest 6.5 mid. Like of all the midfielders that are priced under 7 million, he
Yeah.
scored the highest points. Rice number 1,
Just-
Rodrigo number 2, Bruno Guimaraes number 3.
Just needs to play number 8. That's all.
That's a good reminder as well. Like, we go for these picks. We spend a lot of time thinking of these sub 7 million picks. Like, it's very difficult to nail a good one. And it's very difficult to nail that Palmer. It takes time. So people shouldn't be too hard on themselves. Like if they pick the wrong out of, Bob versus, we'll come to those guys, the ESRs versus others. It's a hard bracket.
It is.
Anybody else you guys want to point out in this bracket?
I mean,
I'm
you
done.
mentioned Mitoma. I like this game week 2-1 fixture, but 1 and 3 gets quite difficult. So obviously from 4 and 5, I think Mitoma is more of a consideration.
Yep, I agree. It's just that there's a cheaper and potentially better
Player
option
Minty.
in the same team.
Correct.
Yeah, so we'll discuss that.
Oh, I thought
what
you
do
were
you
talking
guys think
about
about
João Pedro. But anyway, I'm joking.
Spurs mids? I think the Solanke signing kills them all.
Yeah. And BJ also apparently might not start now.
Yeah, and Kulusevski could share minutes with BJ. It's performance dependent. So I just think the Solanke signing kills all the Spurs mids except for Son.
Agreed.
Cool, we're done with this bracket. Moving down to the 6 million midfield bracket.
Well, 5 to 6. Or is it 5.5 to 6? Because 5 is a different bracket.
And I don't have anybody to shout out in the 6 million midfield bracket at all.
Nobody.
Nobody there.
There's
Nobody there for
Gallagher
me.
and Paqueta who are both out. Oh, well, Paqueta
Yeah.
could be.
Dewsbury Hall, if he can nail down a spot, potentially could be.
But you're talking about the central spots, and that's Nkunku and Palmer, right?
That's the
Like
thing,
that's
it's a
my
very
problem.
congested area.
And Lavia, Casado, Enzo behind. Like there's too much
There's
traffic.
too much traffic there, but yeah. Very little. The 6
What
million
about the
bracket
city
is
mids? Doku, Grealish, and Savio.
good. I don't
I'll
think
wait for one to emerge. At the moment, there are none.
Yeah.
That's all I
just
have
go
to
for
say.
the tried and trusted, more talismanic picks. Bob is a completely
Exactly.
different aspect at 5 million, of course. We will talk about him. But let's move down to the 5.5 now. I think this is a very big bracket this year.
Huge bracket and a stacked bracket. Go one by one. Plus, who do you like
My
the most in this
prediction
bracket?
in game week 6, there'll be no midfielders in the 5 to 5.5 million bracket. That's
So
my
they've all
first
gone up?
warning. No, they don't exist as good
There are
picks
no
anymore.
options.
Exactly. Because I just feel they're bandwagons. We think they're great. They could emerge as great, but there's a high likelihood that they fizzle out as well. Like, we've hyped them up more than they should. That's just my little pragmatic start before we go. I know even the chat is looking forward to the 5.5 discussion, so I won't ruin it too much. But look,
Let me hype it up then. Let's
Go on then,
counter
you
it.
hype
I
it up.
genuinely feel that a premium might be possible game week 6 because at least 5.5 million
Yes.
midfielders might
I'm in the
emerge,
same
which
boat.
give us.
I'm big on Minty. I think Minty
Yeah.
game week 4 could be a great pick.
but March could be back.
I think
Bro, like,
Minty is just
Minty is
another level
insane.
of player.
Like what we've read about Minte in
What we've seen now.
general.
There's
Like, it's
Adingra,
insane.
there's March, there's Minte, and Minte would start. I agree with you. But that's why I'm saying game week 5, 6, look, I could be wrong. It's just my prediction that these are very exciting picks today. They may not be.
Let's start with the
Hold
most
on.
popular one, Smith Rowe. Where are you guys?
I
on
actually have Smith Rowe in my team as the 5.5 standout because of fixtures and because of role, because of pedigree, because of possibly taking pens. Like, he's coming in like a Ross Barkley plus. Like he's coming into a better team than Luton, where he's had his injury problems, but he has Premier League pedigree. People were, he was an England boy before he got injured. So he's basically coming in to say, give me your number 10. And I just think with the good fixtures, great punt if he can stay fit. And that's if he can stay fit is the biggest problem.
Is he a 7th or 8th mid?
8th.
That's what I expected. I didn't expect him to be your 7th.
Yeah. So I won't play him every week. He'll rotate with João Pedro. But that's getting into my draft.
I think he's a good 7th mid for what it's worth. I genuinely think ESR is a pick. I don't think he's a non-pick. He's the pedigree that Pras spoke about is 10 goals in 21 games in the one fit season he has. His problem is his fit, and I always believe in the rule: he's fit until he isn't. Exception to the rule, Reece James. Like that's the
He's unfit until he isn't.
yeah, exactly. So I think he's a pick. And the two friendlies, he was genuinely box crashing at every instance. And Fulham looked pretty decent in the friendlies. I'll say that. They got a decent attack happening. So I think he's a good pick.
Yeah. I think ESR is definitely. I think initially what I read from the impressions from the friendlies is still struggling with fitness a little bit. So you might see a few early sub 60, 70 in the first few games, but Andreas is on his way out. So that's quite encouraging in terms of him locking down the number 10 role. And just has feel good vibes about it. Class player, finally getting game time, etc. etc. I think he's a standout pick for me in that bracket.
Outside of Minte. Let's just do a little bit of Minte
Minte is a pure
hyping up.
fixture thing. And again, even with fixtures, I don't really mind him because I don't think the first two are that difficult. It's game week 3.
Let's hype him up right now. I just have some stats here from the write-up. In the Dutch Eredivisie, you want to call it a Farmers League, you can call it. He had 10 goals and 6 assists in 17 starts and about 10 sub appearances. He also had the highest goal creating action amongst everybody in the league. And like he's had 3 goals and 2 assists in about 300 odd minutes in preseason also. And Pedro sort of playing deep, and they're playing the Firmino, Salah, Mane thing where Minte is coming forward. And he's just like, I haven't seen a player this explosive. That's the word I want to use. In terms of his actions, his pace, the way he's able to take on players, the way he's shooting in a while. I don't have it in my Game Week 1 team. And Pras is spot on where there are a lot of good players in Brighton. Adingra exists, Pedro exists, all these players exist. But Minte is exciting because he's explosive. Like, that's all. So I'm not starting with Minte, but I'm very happy to have him. I've got my eyes firmly set on him for Game Week 4.
He's a sort of player Chelsea going to bid 80 million for in 2 years.
Yeah.
That's what it feels
like. He's got that upside.
Can I ask, while we're talking about Minte, do you prefer him or João Pedro?
The problem is now with the forward slots is Solanke, Isak, and if you're going Haaland, it becomes a bit of a no-brainer.
Yeah, but you could have Jota plus João Pedro versus Minte plus Solanke.
Right, but I think Solanke, and again, we're digressing into
I prefer Minte plus Solanke. That's where my thinking is.
Exactly. I just think Solanke is going to be a game breaker. And number 9 is just an auto pick for me, irrespective of fixtures.
That's the thinking.
And same thing with Isak.
This is the one thing that's different from Adingra and the other wingers. Plus, this is not the guy that stays wide and cuts, like crosses in. This is the guy that cuts in and scores. Like, he's very output-ish in a very short sample size. So just very closely monitor him because Brighton have good fixtures Game Week 4 onwards. That's all.
I think the chat agrees with us. The most likely Game Week 1 bandwagon I can see is Minte.
Yeah.
It's going to be up against Mikolenko.
Yeah. And let me shout out one steady Eddie pick at 5.5 million is Kamada. He's done well under Glasner. He's had a season of 8 or 9 goals and then a season of 13 goals. Under Glasner, playing in that 10. The only problem is you worry if he plays a little deeper, especially if Eze sticks and then Sarr plays on the right. But I think he'll start the season first 5-6 games he'll play. What I like about him, he's not flashy, but his job is he's very he's an intelligent player in the sense he knows where to position himself when the balls are coming from the wide areas because he's procking himself in the center of the box for just a goal tap in, which is how he scored in the last preseason friendly as well. So I'm expecting him to be a decent floor 5.5 million pick. Pras, you're on mute.
Sorry. Sarr plays in the same position though, right? So it may be that he's bedding in. So I agree with you basically in essence. He could become a good pick. He could emerge to become a good pick.
Yeah, and I think he's good for the first 3 or 4 weeks because Sarr is far away from fitness. Kamada's had a full preseason.
Yeah,
so it's a good pick to start.
Well.
Yeah, exactly. That's all. And then Murphy, man. Like every Newcastle fan is telling us that Murphy is the sleeper pick because that right wing is his spot and he's been, 8 returns in preseason so far?
Just don't
buy the actually,
wrong
remember,
one.
End of last season also, he ended on a flurry.
He did. And I was just saying, are there 2 Murphys at Newcastle? Jacob Murphy's moved clubs. I don't remember. I remember at one point there were 2. Either way.
The guy who keeps scoring every game. It's only one. It looks like it's two, but it's him doing everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, again, a bit like Lewis Hall, great pick first two games. After that, you don't know.
Yeah, I was talking to Zoff about it, and Zoff is like, Barnes exists. Where will he
Yeah,
go?
exactly. And
Like,
Barnes was
yeah.
great, man. Great Premier League pedigree. And so I just think it's not a long-term pick at all. Not even a short-term pick. Like a very immediate pick. That's it. Game week 1 or 2. That's it.
Like you want more proof before going there, is the thinking?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Go on consistency over there because
And we won't get
5.5 is not the guy you want to mess around with. You want somewhat of a glue pick in that bracket.
Somebody's going to go there and then profit though. Like we're all going to be sitting with Gordon and Isak, and Murphy braces game week 1, and that guy's just going to be like, what the hell? It might happen.
There's also
all
Almiron,
right.
I think, who's been a bit rubbish recently, but he can also play there.
All right, 5.5 million. I'll quickly just see if there's anybody else worth shouting out. Clivert took a penalty for
Semenyo.
Bournemouth, but Semenyo could be striker in that Bournemouth team.
With pens.
With pens.
Good hat.
Lindstrom is an interesting name to monitor, but right now he's competing with the other Harrison. He's competing with Harrison. McNeil, the analytics darling. Any thoughts on Dwight McNeil? I've got nothing to say.
Yuck.
No.
All right, Andreas. For people looking at Andreas and Iwobi, Andreas played the deeper midfield role. So he's playing in the pivot with Lukic.
He's
and he is
transfer
staying the
listed.
10. Yeah.
But it may not last, right? Like they will sign someone. Like it may not be that he's playing in the pivot. Maybe he stays. Maybe he takes minutes off Smith Rowe. You know, they can't just rely on Smith Rowe as the only number 10 option for the season.
Yep.
But he becomes a worse pick now that Smith Rowe has joined.
What about Hudson-Odoi? 5.5. Massively overperformed his XG. That's what I don't like from last season.
Decent pick on counters. I just prefer
bit of a one-trick pony in terms of just looking to cut inside and shoot constantly. But I mean, Robin made a career out of it, so can't really fault.
Exactly. He's good at that one trick.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing. And had a little bit of output. Let me just check. His output wasn't bad in the end of the season. 1 second. Let me see if I can find the numbers.
Have a look. Another name the chat mentioned is Brereton Diaz. Southampton just don't want to go there, right?
Yeah.
But
don't
know if he takes pens off Armstrong. So maybe later if they have a double game week and stuff, he's not a game week 1 pick.
So I found the numbers under Nuno. Hudson-Odoi scored 7 goals in 16 starts. That's decent output for a 5.5 million pick. I just think because of Forest being Forest, I prefer the 5.5 picks from the other better attacking teams. That's where my thought is.
Yep. Or even for 0.5 less.
Or even for 0.5 less. Look at us, man. All three of us are anti-Forest, and there's a huge chunk of players plonking on the first 3 for Forest and going show. It's just like we're talking them off.
The fixture list is arguably the best in terms of.
I still have a game week 4 wildcard that I've just screenshotted, and Cho is in it. Like if you were going only for the first 3 fixtures, Forest is easily the best.
Did you get Wood?
I don't know, man.
Screenshot?
I didn't, unfortunately. Because Isak, Haaland, and then Solanke in that draft make it in.
I tell you what, I don't have a read on Forest though. Like I don't know if they're consistently capable of being that good in attack. I just don't know. Like I don't have confidence in their 5.5 million picks. Okay, who else do we have? Ipswich, Omari Hutchinson could be an option. Game week 3 or 4. They have a good run of fixtures after that. Elliott, like that 10 spot could become Elliott's, who's looked very good in preseason. It's just we need to wait for him to make that spot his. And he's fighting Super Sky at the moment for that spot. So until that happens, we don't know.
It's also one of those where if one of them gets injured or one of them clearly emerges, then becomes amazing. In fact, game breaking. So, but yeah, 1 to definitely monitor.
Yeah. While people are monitoring, also monitor Gomez from Wolves. Like I've heard really good things about him in that midfield bracket, and that's it. That ends the 5.5 million midfield bracket rankings, boys. I'll come to you first.
5.5. I have to go with ESR because I have it in my team, but only for the short term. Forgotten, it has so many names.
Kamada?
No. Not high on him.
Minte,
Minte, yes. Okay, let's call Minte number 2. Uh,
Murphy,
Murphy, no, not keen on Murphy.
Joe.
I think I could go for Hudson-Odoi as my third.
I'd agree with Pras. I'm on the same boat, same order.
My favorite pick for the season is Minte, but for game week 1, it's ESR followed by Kamada followed by Minte.
Actually, I'll change my third from Cho to Semenyo. Semenyo, I think, has good potential. Without Solanke, you could see him like getting a higher percentage of goal share if he gets pens, which I don't think he will. But if he does, like there is a pick there, longer term.
He mentioned he tried to play Billing as centre forward the last game to give him options, and they're linked also with Tammy Abraham. So Semenyo's OOP status might not last.
Yeah, fair enough.
FPL discomfort is in the chat, Kieran, telling us we better cover Rice. We covered Rice. I talked him up. Every time I talk Rice up, I get grief in the comments also. But I'm going to be here for when Rice plays 8.
There's 3 Indians on the podcast. We always cover Rice.
Hey, while we take a little break and before we move into the fan half, Zoff, why don't you tell people to just show some love and hit like and subscribe because they listen to you, man.
We've actually crossed 1K subscribers over preseason, and we will be doing a deadline stream on Friday. That will be subscribers only. That's subscribers, so not members. So subscription is completely free. All you have to do is hit that subscribe button and support us. So do go and hit it, like and subscribe.
And plus, why don't you tell them about our Patreon and YouTube membership benefits as well?
Yeah, so I think we talked about within Sleeper, we told you guys that we have a Discord community. So if you become a YouTube member or if you join our Patreon, which is patreon.com/thefplwire, then you basically get a Discord access where we have this community where we discuss all things football, but even beyond football. We have a lot of competitions this year that we're running with our members. So there's obviously the Sleeper competition with all the PlayStations and the jerseys we talked about, but there will be other leagues that we will run and other comps with merch. Last year we gave away prizes to our league winners. Every monthly winner got an FF Scout membership. They got a merch, mugs, and trophy. And so we'll try to do something for the league as well this year. And in addition to all this, you get free content as well if you are a member or a Patreon, which is basically a Q&A every single week that we will do for only the members of Patreons.
Which we're doing
Yeah,
tomorrow.
we're doing one tomorrow, by the way, for those watching. We're doing one around 7 p.m. IST, 2:30 UK time. We'll be there answering your questions. Cool, 5 million midfield bracket. Oscar, Bob, who wants to start?
For us.
I love him. I love him. I think he's a great pick. Maybe I have the same excitement that you have for Minte for Bob. Like, I just think when you're talking about an upside pick, right? Like Jota comes to mind. Because why? Because you could get minutes plus amazing team. Right? Brighton, we don't know if he's amazing team. It's not De Zerbi, he's still new manager. This is Man City we're talking about. And it's Man City where a manager has said that Bernardo will play more through the middle this year. Who played on the right last year, the whole season? It was Bernardo. Because Foden played on the left or drifted centrally. Grealish played on the left. Doku played on the left. So right side seems like it's there. Now, I'm not saying Bob is there for our season and we can have him and he'll be our go-to Palmer type pick. I just think there will be moments where you can get him and enjoy a haul like Ipswich at home in game week 2. So I like him because there is a little window where Foden is not ready, De Bruyne is not ready. When De Bruyne is not ready, Bernardo Silva plays in the middle. So right is there for Bob to start. Game week 1, if he does well, next fixture is game week 2, which is Ipswich at home. That game is on the same day as the deadline. Last season, we remember how Man City, we knew the teams. And for those people who are listening, there are leaks on Twitter and other places where you can basically get a reasonable idea sometimes, not every time. And it's not from us. There are people out there. So do find that out. And so you will know in game week 2 with reasonable certainty if he's starting. I just think that upside in at home to Ipswich is too good to pass up. So I think he's a very good pick if you're on a short-term wildcard strategy.
As a 7th or 8th mid plus?
8th, because you can then just after game week 3 let him rot until you wildcard. You don't want to use your transfer at 5 for 5.5 or 5 million.
Because some people have suggested, let's say, having Bob there over, let's say, an ESR and keeping 0.5 in the bank to go to the whichever is the form mid that emerges. Let's say a Minte bandwagon or an ESR bandwagon comes, you could jump on right away. But if you have him and let's say you get some sort of news, and LR mentioned to me that Man City had a 3 p.m. kickoff on that day. So it's very likely that we could get some sort of lineup leak with Bob over there. What do you think about
Even
that?
game week 3? That's what I mean. Even game week 2 and 3, they're on the same day as the deadline. because they're both Saturday deadlines and they play on later on Saturday. One time 3 p.m., the other time 5:30 p.m. That is the appeal, that you keep that option. But he can't be your seventh or eighth attacker, because there will be a moment where he doesn't start and that's it. Party's over. So you want to have that other option to play that week. I personally don't want to use a transfer on him. Like the whole strategy I've talked about this season, my transfers before my wildcard are precious. So I can use it for Haaland to Salah. I can use it for maybe a Saka to a Son captain game week 5. I'm not using it for Bob to Kamada or whatever. Like, it's fine.
LR, talk about to us.
But just if I agree with what you guys said, I just think make sure if you're going there, he's your 8th attacker, not your 7th. That's about it. That's all I have to say. Or you're going with 4 strong defenders. Like, don't rely on him, because he could be a problem as soon as game week 2 or game week 3. And then you don't want to fix those fires. And just be very wary that you will want to focus on Aston Villa and Liverpool game week 3 and 4. So transfers are going to be precious by that time, especially if you're not going with Ollie Watkins. Watkins bags a brace in one of the first 3 game weeks. We're scrambling to get him. So just know that you're going to focus on, and you want to focus on these bigger teams and not sort of put fires out. So make sure he's your 8th attacker. That's the only bit of advice.
And I think you should also be cautious if you're getting, let's say, Guardiola and Haaland, if you're going to lock yourself out of a City third with Bob. I think you should ideally get him if you're getting only one of Haaland or Guardiola as a second. Let's say you want to jump on Foden or someone right away. Don't have to transfer Bob for that. But
Yeah,
I
or
don't
be
bu-
patient. Or stay patient.
I'm
Like-
still not buying the whole thing that Bernardo is not going to play on the right, because in the games where Pep wants control, I think that's something he still might default to in the tougher fixtures.
Of course. Like I said, I don't think it's a little bit of a window. And I think over the season, he'll become a rotation option, just like Doku was. So that does it. Was Doku an option last season? No. Like, people picked him, went there, got lucky or what. But he wasn't a steady pick. I don't think Bob will be a steady pick. But there could be windows where it becomes viable. And the reason why he won't be a steady pick is exactly what you said, Zoff, that at some point you want Foden, Haaland, and Guardiola, right? When their fixture run is insane after game week 7, there's no Oscar Bob. Like, there's no chance. So this is why I started with under 5.5. We'll have this discussion in game week 6. My prediction is 1 out of everyone who we've discussed will basically be the one. Everybody else will be a dud.
Move on to Rogers.
So I currently have Rogers in my team as my 8th attacker. And with Bob and Rogers, you need to be prepped for 2 things. Because they're going to be popular punts game week 1. If they flop, they could be 4.7 by the time game week 3 comes around. And if they work, they could be 5.4 by the time game week 3 or 4 comes around, because these are the spots in which a lot of price movement happens. So sort of mentally prep yourself, because, it might not be easy to hold firm and not spend a transfer there, like we're saying, because 8th attacker, etc. And show patience, because you don't like bleeding money at the start of the season too, right? You like putting out those fires as well. So sort of be prepped for that. The only reason I'm going for Rogers is because I think he's likelier to be first choice compared to Bob, for example. I think there's less competition in his position compared to Bob. I spoke to Hopcroft, I spoke to Adam Hopcroft, I spoke to the Villa guy who's doing a thread today, and I'm speaking to Freeman. The basic thinking is that there's 2 out of Bailey, Ramsey, and Rogers are going to start every week until they sign somebody else. And they are looking for somebody else in that position at the moment. Until then, 2 out of these are going to transfer. So I like those odds. I think Rogers, him having a full free season, etc., helps. And if he just stays and does well in the first 2 weeks, my thinking is we'll have a great run 3, 4, 5. So if I'm putting out other fires, I don't have to panic transfer, because I have Rogers sitting there as an 8th attacker. If he continues to be starting, I'm very happy to play him 3, 4, 5. Conversely, Villa do have Champions League between 4 and 5, so there is that issue where he could be rotated. But in my head, I'm sort of thinking that in the Champions League, he wants more control options. And Ramsey's more control than Rogers. And in the easier home games, he wants the more second striker. So these are the things that I'm sort of weighing up, and why I'm thinking of going for Rogers as the 8th attacker.
Pras, where are you on that?
Yeah, look, I think longer term. So if you're on a game week 4 wildcard, Bob makes more sense to me, because of fixtures and this opportunity Ipswich at home. If you're going for a longer wildcard, or if you're open to a later wildcard, then I think Rogers is better for sure. Like, you could easily have an opportunity where it could be a 5 million attacking player for Villa, they end up not signing anybody because he's showing potential, continues to show potential. Definitely agree. But I do think if I'm in that position where I need a long-term solution, even if it's an eighth attacker, I might just find an extra 0.5. Like I just think those guys we talked about at they are reasonably nailed, right? I mean, unless they get injured, they should continue to play at 5.5 as opposed to the 5 million bracket.
In my position, plus if I'm starting with Bruno, I have the option to spend that 5.5 million extra. I'm just wary I'll need Watkins and Salah, so I don't know if I want to spend.
Yeah, fair
I
enough.
think it comes down to my belief in Rodgers, I guess, eventually.
Yeah.
It is going to
Because
come down to
I
Tom
think you
Freeman, if
guys
I'm
are
being
still
very honest.
advocating spending a bit more. I'm still looking at saving money on the bench. I haven't changed my style accordingly in terms of the transfers. Like a lot of people are saying you want more bench depth in your eighth attacker this season in case you have injuries, etc. But if anyone gets injured, I'm still going to transfer them out right away. So I'm not a fan of getting an eighth attacker that's more than 4.5 million.
The only reason because I think there's enough upside for Rodgers in that spot. That's all. If I'm getting Saka like you, we have the same structure. I will not have an option but to spend on a 4.5 million midfielder.
Right. And also, Peter in the chat mentions that their ownership is not high enough to drop that much. But I just want to caveat this for people. Players with 5% ownership or under have a different algorithm compared to over 5. So you require a lot fewer transfers to drop. So don't let that ownership mislead you. Sorry, Pras, go on.
No, I was just saying back on your structure point. I think this is why the game's changes have done well. I mean, different people will have different strategies. So I think if you will play the game saying I'm going to forget about the 5 transfers. I'll play the way I've played. It could absolutely work. I am feeling like the wildcard, if you have to maximize the power of the wildcard, to maximize it, you have to use the fact that you will use your wildcard to fix problems. Like you'll use your wildcard to fix the injured player, not your transfer. You'll use the wildcard and then you carry through those transfers. I feel it may be more powerful, but it's different ways of playing, and I think it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, as we were talking to our friend FPL Rouser, Ivan, and he's playing his first Gameweek 1 team. One of the ideas he's playing with is just going Haaland as a single premium, and he spread around his cash massively.
Yeah,
genuinely massively. Like he's got Guardiola, Porro, and Trent in his defense, and he's thinking, I am looking to like how you were thinking game week 1, not spend transfers game week 4 or 5, then maximize the power of wildcard, then wildcard, and then or if I don't need the wildcard, spend 3-4 transfers there. So he's having a much deeper squad. So it's coming down to different strokes for different folks. Absolutely. I'm in the more Zoff camp. It's just a little bit of insurance because I believe in Rodgers as a pick a little bit. That's all.
Before we wrap up, I just want to do this chart by Fraser, and we have some numbers from Rob T as well. I just want to gloss over. This is similar to the charts that Fraser has done earlier in our forwards and defender pods. Who are the guys most likely to benefit from the changes into the bonus point system? So Odegaard stands out, obviously. Every return very likely to get bonus. Foden, Palmer, Saka. Salah, not so much.
Still but then his underline is insane.
Exactly. The NPXGI is so high on the x-axis that sort of balances it out. Who else stands out? Bruno. Again, NPXGI not very high, but very high on the bonus.
Yep. Eze on the other hand, like not bonus, but I was expecting Eze to be actually higher because he, with the shot maps. Yeah. So if they're on target, he should, maybe they foul him more because he's more center of attention. And so maybe there's obviously a baseline increase from what he did last year, but there's also actual increase from maybe he'll be more productive this year, have the ball a little bit more, take more shots, be fouled more. So I'm expecting more bonus points for Eze.
Let's just touch upon the Rob T numbers. What caught your eyes over here, Pras? Let's look straight at the one that with the goal involvements.
So I'll bring it up. Why don't you guys start? Let me bring it up. It's not very clear.
Saka caught my eye. He's so close to Salah.
Saka, exactly. That's a good point. But the difference is goals. More assists for Saka, more goals for Salah, about plus or minus 2 over there. Son has seen a massive drop in the estimations, and that's definitely down to the Solanke signing. They're expecting the goals to be shared around a little bit over there.
I think the moment he takes his first penalty, it'll go back up. I think it's a pen share thing. People are not sure now who takes pens.
That's a good point. Bruno and Odegaard obviously projected quite high as De Bruyne. In terms of the cheaper mids, Eze, Gordon and Nkunku are right up there, along with Bowen, for example. They're projected to score higher than even like your Jackson, Pedro, etc. Gibbs White also features quite favorably, but not much else stands out. Anything else you want to add here, LR?
I want to ask you, who do you think does better than they're projected to do at the end of season? Come on, let's do a little bit
Haaland?
of gut feeling.
I'd say Haaland right at the top. I think he gets.
All
I think
right.
he picks 30.
Okay, that's a cop out though. Like let's like who do you think climbs the table higher than they're projected to be? Like who? Come on, let's put
Isak.
our Isak does. Zoff, Isak is going to do. Come on, like go a
I
little,
mean,
be a little more,
I'm looking. You asked the question. I'm just thinking out loud as we go.
get more creative. Just a little gut feeling thing about
Mateta
this
gets
season.
more than 10.
I'm with you on that. Mateta definitely gets more than. Who? Okay, forget this. Who do you think is going to be the breakthrough star this Premier League season?
Minte.
He looks likely. Pras?
No, I'm not buying any minty hype. Um, if I'm looking at the left column, I would say Garnacho easily outscores 8 goals. I would say Fulkrug could do better than 12. I'm quite high on West Ham. Let's see how Lopetegui does. Nkunku, I think at 11 is quite aggressive already. So
Hmm.
those are the guys that are standing out on the left-hand side. João Pedro could do better if he gets minutes, more than 11 goals, especially with pens. You'd expect at least 5 pens. So he could do better than 11. But
I'm
breakout
buying
star, I don't know,
tickets.
man.
Like it's not breakout, but I'm buying tickets to the Gordon and the Garnacho
Gordon,
factory.
I'd
I
agree
think both of
completely
them.
with no Europe. I'm totally on board
Yeah.
with that.
All right. One thing we forgot to question: if there are people who are going 3-4-3, and there are tons of them, which 4.5 million midfielders should they get?
So in terms
There
of
are a few
minutes,
names.
go ahead, Ella.
There's Harry Winks, there's Sangare, who look fairly secure in terms of minutes at the moment. Bergwall isn't that. Is Romeo Lavia a pick?
Not really. In terms of minutes, maybe yes, should get security, but we have options there. You could play Caicedo, etc. Bergwall from Spurs?
It's too much competition, in my opinion. Like
People
the
are saying he
one,
should start over Madison, no?
Yes, a lot of
Yeah.
Spurs fans are saying
He
that.
won't, but they will.
He's a guy with
But he's-
actual upside. In terms of the picks we've talked about, he's the only guy who could actually hope to get you something. Because even if he comes
you're
on in
playing,
the last 20 minutes of games, that advantage is there.
if you're playing safe, you go Wings or Sangare. If you really want to gamble, there is a Southampton attacker who's probably going to play 30 or 60 minutes because right now they have a lot of their first team wingers injured. Samuel Emo Amiya. He's 4.5 million. I'm confident I butchered that name. So that's something for you. And while we're butchering names, this Everton midfielder, Tim Irogbunam, has
From
really
Villa.
shown from Everton. Yeah,
I know,
they bought him from
originally
there.
they bought him from Villa.
He's really done well in preseason in the 4.5 million midfield bracket, and he's pretty nailed on to start game week 1. So that's an option for you in that 4.5 million midfield bracket. But I would just play it safe. Would you play it safe though? I feel like you have 4.0 million defenders who are good first and second subs. 4.0, 4.5 million subs. So if you're not spending 5 million, would you chase the upside with this 4.5? There is no upside though.
No,
No,
I'd
play
just
safe.
go with
9.5.
Winks. The key
Yeah.
is just
You just-
not a guy, buy a player from a team you might triple up on. That's what worries me about Bergwall. If Spurs start the season on fire, I might want triple Spurs.
And also be okay to take a 0.5, 0.1 price drop. Like he won't drop too much. Like it's not going to be mass sales. But usually these cheap enablers, they drop. Like, because people start changing the structure. Like if they want to upgrade and buy your Minte bandwagon, they'll upgrade Winks. So that's it. It is up to like be okay with 0.1, man. Like this season, like patience, I think will be the name of the game.
We have, I think, I don't know if he's an Everton fan, but men just say that he's a great young player, Amuwa, the Southampton winger. And even if he doesn't start, he's going to get 30 points, 30 minutes off the bench for sure. Would you buy somebody who's an attacker like this, maybe? I don't know.
Depends on your
Look into him
defense.
if you're looking at it.
It depends on your defense, obviously. If you have, like, let's say, few defenders you can afford to sub in ahead of him, then I don't mind it.
All right. I think that wraps up the midfielder section for us. There's about 800 of you staying with us and watching us. Make sure hitting the like and subscribe because we only have 200 likes. Our views to likes ratio is always terrible. It really helps us. We're going to be plumping again for 1,000 likes on this video like we did for the defense video. So make sure you help us get there. And with that, we officially end our preseason coverage for the season 24-25 because the next
Preseason
pod is Game
prep
Week
coverage.
1.
Exactly. Next pod on Wednesday is going to be our first Game Week 1 pod where we'll talk about Game Week 1 specifically. We'll talk about our drafts, where we are at the time. And it looks like we are aligning, but we are still very different in 4 or 5 slots. So it's going to be a fun discussion.
Yeah. I'm going to figure how to get Salah. Like, that's the thinking. If there is a way to get Salah without compromising too much, I don't think there is. I've tried yesterday.
It's like
But that's
mental
the thing.
games, right? Yesterday, when I was seeing the tweets on people saying Salah is out, then I was thinking maybe I should try getting Salah. How can I try getting Salah? Then I was like, no,
Mm.
I think from a value perspective, it's bad. Like he's still great pick, but we're repeating ourselves.
Yeah, it's okay, man. People are here for FPL content. I think this is the time where people like to chat. This is the first time we've had a real. I want to actually ask Zoff. We're closing 2 hours now. Are you tired today, Zoff, after a too long pod?
Tired? No. Hungry? Yes.
I knew you was going to say that.
Yeah. I've genuinely not felt as spent as I have on the other pods. Like I'm still so fresh. I think it's because it's the Game Week 1 sort of hype and
Minty
being excited
fresh.
for it. Yeah, minty fresh, man. Minty fresh. All right, we'll leave Zoff to get his dinner. Thank you so much for being with us, guys. Any last words?
Let's see you
Take care.
guys.
See you guys.
Everyone from the Patreon Discord tomorrow. It should be a fun chat. I don't think we'll get too many non-FPL questions tomorrow, but let's hope for a few of those as well. We'll see you guys on Wednesday when we'll be very close to locking down our drafts. We'll be putting out videos with our team selections as well. Do join us on the Discord. It's a great time. We'll be on there, I think, most of the week. Anytime I get on the free time, I'm going to be on there. So hope to see you guys there soon.
See you.
Cheers.
Cheers.